emerging from the Mo clan ruins. The time of day was already dusk. Tomorrow I will help you steal that blooming water divine thunder thing. The thief star's mood was very good. Su Xing's party of people was just about to descend the mountain when at this time, they saw an unidentified, long-haired man sitting upon a large rock not far from the entrance. Seeing Su Xing and the others, his eyes exposed a trace of alarm. He rose with his eyes squinting and smiling as a golden-armored short coat and long-skirted girl jumped down from atop a tree, standing beside the man. That pair of firm and chilling pupils was brimming with a lion's pride. One look was enough to see they were not ordinary people. Shi Yuan and the others' discussing voices gradually ceased. Lin Yingmei kept close to Su Xing, staring at that golden-armored girl, showing a cautious expression. At last you've come out. Your acquaintance is Gong Su. The man squinted and smiled as he introduced himself, his eyes indistinctly glancing at Shi Qian. This subtle action was revealed within Su Xing's eyes. This man looked to be here for the thief star. Surreptitiously giving Wu Xinjie a few words, and making Shi Yuan a bit nervous, he said with a smile on his face, "Is something the matter? The star general is you, isn't it?" The golden-armored girl stared at Lin Yingmei, advancing forwards a few steps. Waving her empty hand, a golden light flashed, followed by a long sword with a Buddhist swastika appearing in her hand. The girl's forehead twinkled a light yellow astral crest. As expected, she was a star general. Vajra's evil smiting sword. Tu Shi Yuan shouted. "It's the devil star, giant in the clouds Song Wan." 3. Since we're all star masters, wouldn't it be better to let us enter a star duel with this matchup? Gong Su beamed from ear to ear. Must we fight? Su Xing knitted his brow. Gong Su nodded his head. The devil star giant in the clouds evoked a slightly provoking smile, already approaching on the attack with meteoric strides. How could Lin Yingmei be courteous? The Arctic star spear revealed its point, fighting at a fast pace with that Vajra's evil smiting sword. Su Xing was secretly on the alert, but discovered this nebula late-stage star master Gong Su, standing motionless at his original spot with a smiling face similar to a Buddha's, had not the least bit of intent to act, just watching calmly as his star general and Lin Chong dueled together. Generally speaking, killing a star master in a star duel always was more convenient than killing a star general. Seeing him staying his hand, Su Xing also did not make move. As far as Lin Yingmei was concerned, he still had much confidence in her. The Arctic star spear suddenly thrusted, just like a hot knife through butter, and Song Wan raised her Vajra's sword horizontally to block. Su Xing inwardly said that she was still truly naive, relying on Lin Yingmei's strength. This spear absolutely could repel her, and soon, the follow-up killing moves could easily make her receive injuries. SFX clank clank. The spear point directly stabbed onto the Vajra's sword, but firmly blocked Lin Yingmei's full power thrust without breaking. The giant in the clouds cruelly smiled, suddenly lunging forward with her sword slashing horizontally, actually jolting away Lin Yingmei 3 chi. Arctic star spear. Surprisingly, it's Lin Chong. Ha 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 ha, the young girl howled with laughter. The tranquil Gong Su also abruptly changed expressions. What, that is the majestic star, the panther head? Heh. I never thought that Lin Chong unexpectedly would also sign a contract. This is indeed unprecedented. Song Wan grasped her sword with one hand. Upon the side of the Vajra's sword flashed a golden-colored starlight. Lin Chong, be careful. That Vajra's sword is already a one-star destined weapon. Wu Xinjie said gravely. So that was the star general's sought-after star-graded star weapon? Su Xing secretly sized it up in a glance. The knowledge star used her Huangjie magic. Think then act. Her eyes sent out a radiant light, and immediately, the devil star's battle strength level and realm was revealed without doubt. What Wu Xinjie did not expect was that the devil star had already entered heavenly clothes. 5. It's a heavenly clothes realm earthly star. Wu Xinjie warned. Be careful of her Huangjie tactics. Based on the star general's own fighting capabilities, it was altogether divided into the 7 realms: heartbeat, heavenly clothes, 1,000 militaries, 10,000 techniques, matchless, extreme realm and true phoenix. 6. Although the devil star was only a heavenly clothes, which was slightly inferior to Lin Mei's 1,000 militaries. Possessing a 1-star destined star weapon meant that in terms of power, she was not the least bit inferior to Lin Mei. Lin Mei nodded her head, her expression unchanged. Even if you are Lin Chong, I'll still make you dead. The giant in the cloud's arm raised her Vajra's sword behind her, and countless 7 symbols radiated forth from the Vajra's sword. The sword light warped just like a Buddhist mantra. It was obvious she was preparing to use her Huangjia sword stroke. Lin Mei immediately broke off her attack. A golden light suddenly shot towards the young girl, and Lin Mei blocked with her spear point. That gold light abruptly scattered in midair. Go! And Gong Su no longer dared to watch with folded arms, immediately taking action. A golden flying sword transformed into a large, golden threaded net that rushed to go cover up Lin Mei. Fire lightning shot onto the net with a boom, bringing it down. It happened to be Su Xing's firebolt sword. Su Xing effortlessly raised it, and the sword turned into fire lightning that flew towards Song Wan. At this time, the Star Maidens and Star Masters' contractual superiority manifested. Gong Su formed hand seals, and the astral crest on her forehead immediately flickered. Obtaining her contractor's star energy that he imparted, the giant in the cloud Song Wan's Huangjia sword technique then rapidly shot out. Great wisdom, King Cleave. 8. The young girl coldly shouted, and the Vajra's sword seemed to play the song of 10,000 Buddhas. As the sword pierced through, a grand and imposing sword chi from the sword linked together with the entire grindstone mountain. Lin Mei defended with her spear, and Su Xing called out the shark scale shield. The deep and resounding sword chi directly exploded on the high-grade artifact shark scale shield, and Su Xing immediately felt his throat fill with blood. The Devil Star smiled a savage and toothy grin. After thrusting with great wisdom King Cleave, she seized the opportunity to launch an attack, suddenly arriving before Su Xing's eyes. The Vajra's sword slashed and shattered the already spent shark scale shield. 9. And a cold light stabbed towards Su Xing's stomach. Su Xing did not hide the hand seals he formed, and the firebolt sword shot out at the same time. With a delicate cry, the giant in the clouds heavily suffered heavenly lightning tremors one after another, as she flew several dozens of meters away. Su Xing did not fare as well, for an acute pain washed over from his stomach. The golden thread fish scale armor had been unexpectedly punctured open. Just as Song Wan was being shaken back, a figure flew out. It was Lin Mei, raising her spear and sweeping it over. The Devil Star had her own Star Master though. Gong Su shot 2 golden wheels that pincered from the left and right, obstructing Lin Mei's sudden stab. Subsequently, mobilizing his star energy, the shot-down golden net once again took to the skies. Lin Mei's feet stepped on the 2 golden wheels, somersaulting backwards to avoid the golden net. Except death. Gong Su all of a sudden blew a long whistle, letting the 1,000 machine disciples that lay in wait in advance seize the opportunity to attack Lin Chong. Dozens of cold lights flew out from within the forest, but they flew towards him. Upon seeing this, Gong Su hastily emitted star energy, blocking those flying needles. These flying needles were not ordinary artifacts. Gong Su saw the opportunity to raise his sleeve, and a mechanical bird flew out and blocked all of those flying needles. Note, can you guys guess who fired these needles? Elder brother Gong Yang. What's happening? Both Gong Su and Song Wan were alarmed. The forest loudly collapsed as 2 immense copper men trampled recklessly in the woods. Those mechanical beasts that were ready to ambush had been stepped on and shattered. The 1,000 machine disciples underneath the copper men also fled and dispersed in every direction. Ordinary artifacts completely did not have any way of penetrating the copper men's defenses. Copper man puppets. How could she have this sort of puppet? Brother, our ambush had been detected. Gong Yang ran before him, battered and exhausted. Heh. Playing ambush in front of the knowledge star, is a bit too naive. Wu Xinjie stood on a copper man puppet's shoulder, smiling coldly. On the other side, the thief star Shi Yuan was currently mobilizing the puppet flags. The 4 copper man puppets caught these troops lying in wait for an ambush unprepared. The 1,000 machine gang's casualties were disastrous. Gong Su went blank. Discovering that the young girls that originally should have been standing in front of him were already gone, it was clear the opposition was insulting the great wisdom King Cleave's might by conducting a stealthy flank to behind them. The knowledge star. Impossible. Gong Su stared at Su Xing stunned. Unexpectedly, it was two top-notch star generals at his side. Just what kind of person are you? Ten turning his eyes. The Thousand Machine Gang's superiority was completely obliterated. Gong Su said angrily, Jiar, you go impede Lin Chong. I, an elder brother, will get rid of her master. N. The Devil Star Song Jiao once again raised the Vajra's sword. A sword light rippled, and 10,000 words altogether cried out. Again, it was a great wisdom King Cleave that separated Lin Yingmei and Su Xing. Don't mind me. Su Xing left this phrase and pulled Silverblade's trigger. 6 thunderfire bullets exited the barrel, launching in succession with whooshes. Gong Su and Gong Yang waved their sleeves and blew away the thunderfire bullets. Against Nebula late-stage star cultivators, the thunderfire bullets could only interfere with them for a moment. But this precisely was the result Su Xing wanted. Availing himself that number of seconds, Su Xing had already used the chaotic tail escape. Fleeing in a flash to the front of Gong Su, Su Xing stabbed Silverblade towards him. Against 2 Nebula late-stage cultivators, no matter how much more confidence he had, Su Xing knew that joining together artifacts had absolutely no odds of success. His only solution was to get close to them and obstruct their use of artifacts in order to handle them. For this reason, Su Xing even let himself be injured to easily use the chaotic tail escape. Gong Su was greatly startled. How could he anticipate that Su Xing would be so brazen, going so far as to dare take on 2 Nebula late-stage star cultivators by himself? However, his divine intent was still extremely dauntless, practically already sensing Su Xing when he escaped here. His body immediately ducked to evade, and Silverblade directly penetrated into his shoulder. Gong Su waved a palm and used Nebula late-stage star energy to slap Su Xing dead. The moment his fingers parted, the golden thread fish scale armor firmly blocked his palm energy, and Su Xing sent him flying with a kick. A ripping cold wind poured into his ear. Thinking was not needed to know that Gong Yang already grasped that opportunity to attack. Su Xing was not looking at all. Raising his left arm, several sharp blades penetrated Su Xing's arm, but Su Xing's brow did not wrinkle at all. Taking advantage of a sidestep, he fired his last 3 thunderfire bullets. At this close of a range, the thunderfire bullets' power passed through the barrel. Gong Yang's defenses conveniently broke, and then feinting with his right hand, his left hand holding Silver Blade took the opportunity to rub Gong Yang's neck. Ah! Gong Yang covered his neck, exposing an unimaginable expression. Fresh blood gurgled out from between the cracks of his fingers, dyeing his whole body red. He opened his mouth wide, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. An arc appeared. He still thought of boarding the arc to escape. However, a copper man puppet's fist rumbled towards him and immediately crushed Gong Yang to death. Elder brother Gong Yang! Gong Su wrathfully shouted. He had not thought that Gong Yang unexpectedly would be killed off by Su Xing in a short instant. He had no time to vent his feelings though. Su Xing's silver blade that was smeared with blood was already stabbing towards him. Su Xing's not doing too shabby. I'm surprised he got rid of a Nebula late-stage cultivator. Sure, Yuan praised. Possessing the majestic star's mark, if it's in close quarters, it definitely is not something that an ordinary star cultivator can block. Wu Xinjie pridefully said. What is that silver artifact? It's a very odd thing. It's a blade, yet it is also a crossbow. SFX, boom, little sister, be careful. And Suan said. A copper man puppet suffered extreme damage under the Thousand Machine Gang disciples' mechanical beasts attack. Sure, Yuan definitely loved it dearly, for she hastily raised a puppet flag and recalled that copper man puppet. The other 2 copper man puppets began to sweep clean the rest of the Thousand Machine Gang disciples. You bunch of mixed soldiers certainly must not disturb the Star Master's fight. The thief star giggled, admiring while full of implications. In any case, it looked like Lin Yingmei and Su Xing handling that Devil Star's Star Master should not turn into a problem. Great wisdom King Cleave. 11, with sword chi that was like a rainbow, the Devil Star Song Jia stabbed, and once again, brought out an impossible-to-resist sword light that beat Lin Mei back. However, it could not bring satisfactory harm to the majestic star. Lin Mei stood straight without falling. That Arctic Star spear again resisted the Great Wisdom King cleave. So this is the Thousand Militaries' realm majestic star? Song Jia already was not in the mood to pay attention to her master's battle. In her subconscious, she believed that her own Nebula late-stage master could handle a Nebula early stage without issue. Lin Mei did not speak much. Her spear's cold chi permeated the entire place, ice cold to the bone. Just like a shooting star on a cold night, Lin Mei already attacked before her eyes. The Devil Star Song Jia's Vajra sword light linked into a resisting wall basically incapable of impeding Lin Mei's pace. She did not care in the slightest that the giant in the clouds' weapon twinkled a Buddhist golden light. Panther Head Lin Chong raised her spear. A hurricane seemingly wrapped around it. A number of breaths had not passed when that hurricane directly arrived above the Devil Star. Following closely the restrained light, it exposed the girl's soldierly figure. The eyes below her hair were like a dagger sticking into her heart, brimming with a forceful feeling of oppression. The spear suddenly stabbed, drawing an ice-cold line in the air. In their silence, Song Jia was even unable to see clearly Lin Mei's thrusting action. A dazzling tip already appeared in the air. A sharp and clear technique chant. The one-star destined weapon blocked Lin Mei's stab. Then a second time, a third. Her spear technique was unending and continuous, increasingly thick. Even if her weapon had ascended to one-star rank, just where did the gap in each side's strength swing? Regarding responsiveness and battle capabilities, how could the heavenly clothes Devil Star be compared to the Thousand Militaries, Lin Mei? The spear point finally pierced through Song Jia's Vajra sword, and in passing, also stabbed through the girl's shoulder. Damned Lin Chong! The Devil Star giant in the clouds' expression was unsightly to the extreme. The Vajra's sword abruptly warped a golden light, and the girl angrily shouted, "Great Wisdom King cleave!" A golden light exited the tip, turning into a severe storm. Lin Mei pulled out her spear, and once again took a defensive posture, knowing the Devil Star would take advantage of the Great Wisdom King cleave to launch a sneak attack. Quickly stepping back, she averted having her weak point being grasped. How could she have anticipated that this time? The Devil Star had fundamentally not hit a snag. After she used the Great Wisdom King cleave, it did not occur that she would turn her body and rush towards Su Xing. Not good. The currently spectating knowledge star slightly changed, her hand clutching a talisman as she jumped down. How could she expect that the Devil Star was only brandishing the Vajra's sword to beat back Su Xing's attack, dragging her already master who was already unable to hold his ground? Let's leave quickly. Gong Su also knew that this time, they had run into a genuine fiend star, fleeing on his flying sword. Immediately transforming into a golden light, and rushing straight through the skies, they ran. Truly worthless, they unexpectedly ran. The thief star Shi Yuan sat on the puppet, roaring with laughter. Are all star duels this hilarious? And Suwen shook her head, nimbly floating down. Young master, you're injured. The divine physician said anxiously. I'm fine. Su Xing shook his head. He was already accustomed to this sort of injury. Looking at Lin Mei, the young girl shook her head, so she also did not have any major problems. After Suwen bandaged Su Xing's wounds, she also fully used spiritual aura distribution to replenish Lin Mei's strength. Firmly resisting a one-star heavenly weapon's full power, Great Wisdom King cleaved 3 times. Even if she was so valiant, she still did not expend much strength. Who were these people? It seems they already knew we were here beforehand. The efficacious star said oddly. It's the Thousand Machine Gang. I'm afraid they came for Shi Qian. Wu Xinjie walked over as she turned her head, and threw a glance at Shi Yuan. Me? Shi Yuan blinked. The thief star promptly declared her innocence and drew the line. This young lady certainly has never seen the Thousand Machine Gang, nor have I stolen anything from them. The MO attack mechanism records. Wu Xinjie said. The Thousand Machine Gang are also experts at using mechanisms. It seems they should be a branch of the Heavenly Machine Clan. Most likely, they wanted to exploit you, and wrest the MO attack mechanism records away. The knowledge star looked at those shattered mechanisms and vaguely guessed 78% of the truth. With such a reminder, Shi Yuan actually recalled the reason why she took great interest in machine arts was exactly that she inadvertently heard other people's discussions. Could it be said that the Thousand Machine deliberately arranged that? It indeed serves them right. It was fortunate that Sister Wu Yong saw through their ambush. Shi Yuan giggled. Wu Xinjie very easily saw through this ambush. Put another way, anybody would feel that a star master waiting in front of them, declaring that he wanted a star duel was strange. Additionally, Gong Su said he wanted single combat. The knowledge star suspected and sensed that Gong Su definitely was alone to draw out the star generals, and then exploit the opportunity to kill them whilst they were unprepared. If they really did let him reach his objective, that result indeed was a bit not too encouraging. This also was regarded as Thousand Machine Gang's bad luck. Without even mentioning an encounter with 4-star generals, there were still the top 10 ranked Knowledge Star and Majestic Star. I did not think that even the Devil Star's Vajra sword was refined into 1 star. Wu Xinjie paid even more mind to this. Since the star duels already had more than 3 years, the other Star Maiden star weapons also should more or less have finished refining the first star. Only seizing the moment to find Relic Blade Sand will do. Su Xing deeply held the same feeling. If it was not for the Vajra's sword advancing to 1 star, Lin Yingmei would not have to fight around. It seemed they could not put off this star weapon refinement. Relic Blade Sand? Shi Yuan exclaimed. Sister Lin Chong is preparing to use Relic Blade Sand as 1-star material? Thinking it over once again, Lin Chong acted as one of Maiden Mountain's supreme generals. Star weapon refinement naturally needed to use supreme materials. Bian City reportedly has a business workshop market. When the time comes, let's go there and look. Su Xing thought of the Relic Blade Sand originally inside the Kunwa ancient monument taken by Lil Air, and had a pang of regret. Su Xing walked before Gong Yang's corpse. This bastard died rather miserably, smashed into a pulp by a copper man puppet's fist. Surprisingly, that wooden boat was still in good condition, and searching with his divine intent. This unexpectedly was the supreme great artifact, Wind-Swayed Raft. A splashing fire talisman eliminated the corpse, and that astral bag was rolled over. It was as Wu Xinjie guessed, for the Thousand Machine Gang definitely were experts in the machine arts. The inside of the astral bag mostly were several manufactured mechanisms, puppet materials, scholar tree golden wood, 2 black iron wood, 3 and innumerable heavy cloud tunics. There were also several hundred blank puppet flags, and a few not yet used mechanisms and such. It actually pitifully lacked artifacts. Besides the attacking flying sword necessary to star cultivators, Su Xing also discovered 2 gold tooth machine discs and a heaven-concealing parasol. 5. It was obvious that if he truly had any first-rate artifacts, Su Xing would not have faced him that easily. The machine arts materials were useless if Su Xing held on to them, so he gave them to Shi Qian as remuneration. The sole item that let Su Xing feel there was an abundant harvest was that wind-swayed raft. It was a flight artifact. Flight artifacts in Liangshan continent were definitely rare. This wind-swayed raft seemed to be created by him linking mechanisms together. Although its speed was not very fast, as far as the not-yet Nebula late-stage Su Xing was concerned, this was equivalent to a convenient tool. Should we go pursue the Devil Star? Lin Yingmei said. Forget about it. I'm afraid we won't be able to chase them. Let's leave first. Su Xing carved his divine sight into the wind-swayed raft. Using his current star energy to operate this supreme great artifact, it could actually be achieved with great difficulty. The wind-swayed raft floated up, and with a strong and fierce wind 6, immediately transformed into an azure light that shot into the heavens. 7. In an unremarkable mountain forest. Has he caught up yet? The giant in the clouds standing atop a tree shook her head. This shame of brothers definitely must be reported. Gong Su gnashed his teeth. He had originally wanted to catch them off guard with an ambush, but he never thought it would be the opposite way around. Your servant was unable to prevail over Lin Chong. Song Jia said calmly. Thrice the great wisdom King Cleve was incapable of shaking up Lin Chong. The gap between them was slightly large, and this was even a contracted majestic star that was already sharing a portion of her star energy to give to her master. Killing Lin Chong's master actually was the most effective method, but it currently seemed that that man was not to be trifled with. Gong Su knew this point as well. For the sake of refining Song Jia's giant's blade into one star, he could be considered as having emptied his pockets. Without powerful artifacts, a nebula late stage's superiority was completely unable to be manifested. How could that person have 4-star generals? Gong Su could not understand about the thin needles fired at him. If he was not mistaken, then these should be the efficacious star, the divine physician and Dao Chuan's destined star weapon child and mother-linked heart's needles. 8 Song Jia grunted. Your servant assumes that Man and Lin Chong signed a contract, and the rest of the star generals soon afterwards followed behind them, believing they can receive benefits for themselves. The Devil Star's face revealed a sneer, feeling those maiden mountain sisters of hers were actually too naive. They believed this would give them peace and quiet? Wait until the star duel's final phase, then that man will inevitably abandon them for the final condition. The Devil Star was only too clear on this kind of selfish matter. Gong Su pondered and agreed. Otherwise, the abnormality of one man contracting 4-star generals was universally shocking. However, unexpectedly contracting the legendary panther head Lin Chong, this was truly inconceivable. We need only dispose of Lin Chong, and then those 3-star generals will certainly become things in our pocket. 9 Gong Su showed his greed. Killing 3-star generals, especially in addition to this kind of fortuitous meeting with the knowledge star, was rare to find. That obstacle Lin Chong is definitely not easy to pass. Unless your servant's star weapon is refined to 2 stars, then perhaps another battle is possible. Song Jia warned. Although that was a super enticing cake, the price of eating it certainly would not be cheap. The 1,000 machine gang disciples providing assistance, this time nearly all exterminated, served as a lesson. The Devil Star definitely did not want to complete a matter without odds of success. Gong Su also realized this. First, have sect members monitor them for the time being. I'll return to pass this on to the sect leader. Seeing that Lin Chong's master's cultivation is only nebula early stage, he should not have become an outlaw yet. This is the best opportunity to kill him. We just need the sect master to show his face. And relying on the current Lin Chong, he will certainly die without doubt. The sect master is currently cultivating the divine machine 9 styles. Perhaps he will not easily show his face? Song Jia shook her head. I'll try it. We only need to kill 4-star generals. And not only can we obtain the MO attack treasure box, we can also seize the opportunity to expand the 1,000 machine gang. The sect master will understand the stakes in this. Song Jia thought about it, and could only be convinced. She did not want to miss this chance either. She only needed to kill 4-star generals, obtain their star energies, especially the majestic star and knowledge star's star energy replenishment. Then, she could smoothly enter 1,000 militaries, and 10,000 methods would not be too far. When the time came, even if she encountered the strongest general, the strength star, Jade Qilin Lu Junyi, she simply would have no fear at all. The Blooming Water Sword Sect, one of the Azure Dragon Territory's 4 great sword sects. The school entrenched above the Heavenly River's 5 efficacious summits was all of the sword sect disciples' most proud achievement. The Heavenly River was looked upon as Liangshan continent's #1 river. The river basin reached an area of 10 million kilometers, cutting across the entire Liangshan continent with countless tributaries. It originated from the 9 mountains of immortals of legend. With natural spiritual power in abundance, its efficacious mountain near the Heavenly River gave birth to countless schools and sections. It was land that star cultivators vied for viciously. Furthermore, the Heavenly River flowing past the rippling wave kingdom altogether had 9 efficacious summits. The Blooming Water Sword sect conveniently occupied the 5 greatest of these. Not being proud of this was out of the question. Actually, speaking of the Blooming Water Sword sect's founding, 100 years had not yet passed. Being compared with the number 3 of the great sword sects, extreme winding sword sect. 2, which had 1,000 years since its founding. The geometric progression was indeed somewhat shameful. The chief of Blooming Water Sword Sect's signature art could not possibly take it around on his person. This made the countless red-eyed star cultivators of the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True Technique desire the chance to steal it. Since relying on a true technique could substitute a school into the 4 great sword sects, thinking of cultivating this technique themselves to turn one into a great Taoist 3 was not necessarily impossible. Consequently, anything concerning the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True Technique was guarded extremely tightly. The Blooming Water Divine Thunder True Technique had been put on the Blooming Water Sword Sect's Blooming Water Hall on top of Overboard Peak. Along the sides of the road, other than 100 disciples standing guard, secret arrays, and mechanisms not low in number, the Blooming Water Hall's surroundings incorporated a calamitous thunder evil smiting array. In the event that they did not have the head minister's permission to pass, if the intruders were not dead, then they would still have to abandon half their life. Along with the passing of 100 years, the star cultivators that died on this road at Overboard Peak were not few in number. Nowadays, the defenses of Overboard Peak were actually increasingly relaxed. However, the Blooming Water Sword sect would never have thought that, once again, someone had their eyes on the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True Technique. And this person was precisely Maiden Mountain's brilliant and famous best thief under heaven, the thief star Flea on a Drum Shurchen. The Flea on a Drum Shurchen carefully slinked into the Blooming Water Sword sect along the mountain path leading to Overboard Peak. Acting as a specialized thief avoiding the eyes and ears of people, she was very clear on these series of dangers, as well as how she should avoid them. Within the views of the ordinary person, robbers like to lead away a goat in passing under cover of the night. However, Shi Yuan was different. Acting as the best thief under heaven, she never walked the ordinary road. Clear and bright under heaven and earth, the thief star easily passed through the Blooming Water Sword sect's outer mountain by means of that excellent sneaking and hiding technique. The thief star's first Huangjia magic, wordless and uncommunicative, 5 was a magic that made her heart have no distracting thoughts and removed her presence. The vast majority of star cultivators were unable to sense her. Even if she were to be behind you, you would not even know. It seemed that if it was used for assassinations, it would be a powerful ability. However, if Shi Yuan were to move for a kill, the silence would very easily be broken. Within a certain time period, it was unable to be used, thus, Shi Yuan was actually very content to take advantage of crises for gain inside the ruins. After all, wordless and uncommunicative, handled a few arrays and mechanisms to great effect. Sometimes, intruding into the arrays and traps would not even stir them. Needless to say, in a short amount of time, Shi Yuan promptly passed by in front of the eyes of 100 Blooming Water Sword sect disciples and arrived at the vicinity of the Blooming Water Hall. Finding a hidden corner, Shi Yuan sized up the surrounding environment. This was caution a thief was required to take. The Blooming Water Hall had 2 middle-stage nebula stage cultivators on guard, but this was only on the surface. Shi Yuan sensed within the darkness that there were additional people standing guard. The Blooming Water Hall had a sword sect forbid dance, and Shi Yuan estimated that this forbid dance would not be difficult to break. It was just those guarding star cultivators that would not be easy to handle. Wordless and uncommunicative, could not achieve making other people turn a blind eye on you. As she was thinking, all of a sudden, the Blooming Water Hall doors opened. 3 people walked out, and heard the star cultivators guarding the door reverently and respectfully call out, "Headmaster." So that's the Blooming Water Sword sect current headmaster, the Taoist Luo River 6? Watching that middle-aged man of flat complexion, Shi Yuan recalled the information the knowledge star gave beforehand, that this Taoist Luo River attained galaxy late stage. The 2 flanking him were a young man and young woman. The man's expression was very respectful, but the girl was rather indifferent, seemingly not putting the headmaster in her eyes. "Seems to be a star general?" Shi Yuan muttered. Suddenly, that girl violently glanced towards the place Shi Yuan was hiding at. The thief star was startled, and immediately restrained her breathing. "Yaoer, what's the matter?" Chen Zhonglin asked. Following her line of sight, several people saw an ordinary mountain rock that Taoist Luo River pointed, and a jade light shot towards there. Not sensing anything peculiar, it subsequently returned. Nothing, just somewhat tired. Yao yawned. Chen Zhonglin helplessly looked at his headmaster. Taoist Luo River slightly smiled, walking while speaking. Zhonglin, this time, the sword sect indeed completely values your capabilities in this time's star duels. You definitely cannot be careless. Zhonglin is determined to go through water and tread on fire for the purpose of raising the sword sect's prestige. Without hesitation, Chen Zhonglin earnestly stated. You have already memorized this blooming water divine thunder true technique's introductory chant? Taoist Luo River nodded, pleased. And Zhonglin surely will do his best to cultivate this art. I won't let the sect down. As Chen Zhonglin declared his solemn vow, Yao dully interjected a phrase. Compared to this, I want even more to quickly refine my star weapon to 2-star. Relic blade sand is truly too rare. A secluded ancestral master 7 already finished his training. I'm afraid we still need more time. Taoist Luo River did not take offense to her attitude at all. Oh, is that so? I've heard Bian City recently held an auction that turned up relic blade sand. The ancestral master certainly will help you obtain it. Taoist Luo River laughed loudly. Chen Zhonglin showed a happy expression. Sword sect ancestral masters on average were all supercluster star cultivators. This sort of cultivation placed within the Azure Dragon territory could be considered front-ranking. It seemed that an ancestral master taking action meant there was no problem. Refining to the 2nd star was not a problem. Yao, I said you can just relax. After this, even if we ran into Lin Chong, even she would know your might. 8N. The group gradually walked off far away, and Shi Yuan stretched her head forward, turning it towards the blooming water hall. Her eyeballs rolled, suddenly exposing a crafty smile. Su Xing sat in his bedroom, both legs crossed as he finished a day of cultivation. Exhaling a long breath, his star energy had yet to make great progress in Nebula early stage. The chaotic tail escape and heart-like mirrors technique's progression was also very slow. Hearing the knowledge star say that during the star duels, star masters would not spare anything to increase their own strength. Besides advancing star energy, first-rate artifacts, and even astral treasures and cultivation techniques were innumerable. The newcomer Su Xing 1 had no patrons and 2 lacked experience. So far he only had the chaotic tail escape and the heart-like mirrors absolute sincerity soul technique. Although speaking of these 2 techniques, that they could be counted as top-notch, not being able to increase his fighting capabilities was somewhat of a pity. Su Xing abruptly remembered the things he stole from the Heavenly River Sword School's blue-clothed youth under the cover of an emergency at the Flower Dragon Cave. Conveniently turning things over, out came the copy of Water Droplet True Technique and a small bottle. Looking through the Water Droplet True Technique once, this seal actually was pretty good. Taking a water droplet and training it inside the Dantian could allow at any time a spitting water droplet attack. Cultivating to late stage, every single rock-piercing water droplet would seem to have the power of 1,000 and could break through to 1,000 men and 10,000 horses. Thinking of that scenario of simultaneously firing several tens or hundreds was just terrifying. It was worthy of not having any difference from the Heavenly River Sword School's signature technique. Rock-piercing water droplet actually could be used as the 2nd silver blade. 9. And Su Xing's eyes gleamed. Considering the blooming water divine thunder, and the consequences of nurturing the rock-piercing water droplets at the same time in his body, Su Xing inquired the experienced and knowledgeable Wuxia. The answer was actually affirmative. As long as the 5 elements do not mutually overthrow each other, this does not have any problems. Then practicing this rock-piercing water droplets isn't bad, Su Xian said. Wuxia looked over the true technique. This is only an early stage or middle stage technique. However, using it to nurture at the Dantian is very suitable for young master. The knowledge star smiled. Is there a reason? Su Xing inquisitively asked. Young master has contracted with myself and little sister Yingmei. Your ocean of consciousness would be larger than from before by a size. According to this logic, as the ocean of consciousness grows stronger, this sort of technique of warm upbringing within the body that exploits divine intent, an ocean of qi to cultivate, will increasingly show its results. Su Xing nodded. Training the rock-piercing water droplets required a kind of ovum water, 10, to act as an aid. And it happened to be that small bottle of singular almost egg-like water droplets. 11. The thief star already agreed to go steal that true technique anyways, so Su Xing decided to directly swallow both the blooming water thunder dragon pill and the ovum water in one go and be done with it. He thought about it and sat. Su Xing had Lin Yingmei stand guard, and Wu Xinjie waited for the opportunity to act. A water pill flew out from his astral bag, and following the opening of that small bottle, those egg waters flowed out from within the bottle, floating in the air under Su Xing's divine intent, letting the nebula stage star energy within his 8 extraordinary meridians revolve around. Su Xing then opened his mouth, and the blooming water thunder pill and ovum waters at the same time flew into his mouth with a whoosh. That ovum water was incomparably viscous. Stuck in his throat, it felt exceedingly disgusting, just like phlegm. Su Xing almost wanted to spit it out, for it had been stuck into a single piece along with that blooming water thunder dragon pill. Breathing in through his throat, Su Xing slowly sucked in the ovum water and blooming water thunder dragon pill to his dantian. At this time, he promptly mustered the star energy in his body to use fire to refine these two goods. Su Xing actually was very lucky executing this step. Refining two types of objects inside the body at the same time could not be achieved by the average person, especially since Su Xing was not more than nebula early stage. Fortunately, he signed contracts with 2 superstar generals, and just as Wu Xinjie expected, an enormous ocean of consciousness was sufficient to support the refinement. Otherwise, 2 kinds of goods was not only ruining the enterprise for a basket, even to the point of obsession, but he could also explode his body and die. The ovum water started to slowly melt, and the rest subsequently also started to melt, one by one. The blooming water thunder dragon pill was also slowly melting under his star energy's refinement. Blue water thunder, like a chick emerging from its shell, issued out with the sound of neighing. The ovum water started to stir up, seemingly fighting in the area of his dantian, and a faint thunder water at this time also pulsed within his body, not to be outdone. Hastily making his star energy revolve like a whirlpool, he little by little wrapped up the 2 kinds of different powers. The ovum water and the thunder water slowly coiled into a clump, violently raising a water thunder that seemingly wanted to engulf the ovum water. Su Xing thought to himself that this was not good, hastily mobilizing the chant on the water droplet true technique. Only after forming several seals did he break away from the misfortune of the ovum water dying out. An increasingly concentrated cyclone simultaneously wrapping the blooming water thunder and the ovum water into a single piece. Those 2 forces inside his body were increasingly violent, and Su Xing had signs of somewhat losing control. With a boom, Su Xing suddenly felt an electric current scatter suddenly in his body. His body seemingly became matchlessly heavy, and his consciousness was incapable of any more resistance. Immediately, the sight before his eyes went black, and he fainted over. 1. Right arrow curving left 2. Right arrow curving left 3. Right arrow curving left 4. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. Right arrow curving left 7. Right arrow curving left 8. And that's what you think, buddy. Right arrow curving left 9. No, not silver blade. Right arrow curving left 10. Right arrow curving left 11. Think frog eggs. Su Xing suddenly felt a burst of warmth and moisture arrive in his mouth, and an agitated breath in his body was pacified. In the middle of his slowly opening his eyes, he caught sight of Wu Xinjie currently laying on top of his body, her beautiful eyes tightly shut, her nimble tongue enchantingly wrapped up in a deep kiss. Su Xing was momentarily moved, embracing her and returning her kiss, both his hands climbing past her back to capture that smooth and round upraised butt. Wu Xinjie moaned sharply, slightly opening her eyes. Her body's rubbing was even more incredible. Wu Yong, what are you doing? The Lin Yingmei who had fetched a pot of water entered the room, and unexpectedly saw the two people passionately kissing on the bed, shouting with a furrowed brow. Xinjie is asking young master to get up from bed. The knowledge star got up wishing to continue, her eyes lovely. Young master, how do you feel? Su Xing also knew he could not pretend to sleep any longer, laughing sheepishly. Master, how are that divine thunder and ovum water? Lin Mei carried over for Su Xing a bowl of medicine that Ensuan specially boiled. It could rehabilitate at the fastest level of speed the exhaustion after cultivation. Su Xing drained the cup in one gulp and sat down cross-legged in response. In his dantian, a water droplet about the size of a pearl currently followed the star energy in his body, slowly moistening his qi rivers. This should be the rock-piercing water droplets, and it was different from what was on the book. This water droplet flickered lights of lightning, unexpectedly refined and turned into a thunder water droplet by the blooming water divine thunder. 2. In a curious coincidence. It was fortunate that the blooming water divine thunder was present, although it was faintly but slowly increasing, equivalently passing through the mixture of rock-piercing water droplets. That water thunder was seemingly solid, apparently even more powerful than the original divine thunder by a level. Speaking about this matter, Wu Xinjie gaped and smiling. Most likely it was this pure blooming water divine thunder and ovum water, each being mixed into a single piece, and forming a sharply contrasting rock-piercing water droplet and blooming water divine thunder. This is actually success by a stroke of luck. Seeing that it was not something bad, Su Xing relaxed, and then he again cultivated according to the water droplet true technique for another few days. A rock-piercing water droplet still separated, and it unexpectedly separated into two. According to what the book said, after rock-piercing water droplets were warmly nurtured at the dantian, unceasing cultivation would then continually refine a number of these. A star cultivator possessing enormous star energy in his body, refining several hundred rock-piercing water droplets was not impossible, but this required a very long time to endure. From swallowing the ovum water to now was only a few hours, and Su Xing's body was already warmly raising 5 rock-piercing water droplets. Actually, this was also thanks to that heart-like mirror's absolute sincerity soul technique. Great Master Mirror gathered his entire life of quintessential military learning and condensed it all for this soul technique. 3 layers of states that had nothing to do with each other, yet each possessed remarkable power. Su Xing's heart-like mirror soul technique broke the heart still as water realm of the first layer. See mountains as mountains, under a chance coincidence. Cultivating whatever technique, even if he followed its cultivation, it was still half the work and twice the effect. To Su Xing's current ocean of consciousness star energy, rapidly refining more than 10 droplets was not a problem. However, it was not exactly that more was better. The rock-piercing water droplet's point of power lay in that a single water droplet's power was like 1,000 Gen 3. It could pierce rock, pierce through iron. Otherwise, it would be the same as that Heavenly River Sword School's blue-clothed youth. Though he had more than 10 droplets, they were all very easily broken by the Azure Dragon fan. And just having Shi Yuan go steal the blooming water sword sect's signature technique this way, isn't this too risky? Su Xing looked at the color of the sky was already dark. Xu Yuan right now still had not returned with information. The flea on a drum Shi Qian is certainly an old hand at this. Without grasping the situation, even she wouldn't be that eager to go throw her life away. Wu Xinjie was not worried in the slightest about the thief star. She really could not imagine a scenario where Maiden Mountain's #1 thief had been captured on the spot. Su Xing thought this was so as well, and worrying now was rather late. Speaking with Ensuan for a moment, Su Xing and Lin Mei along with Wu Xinjie walked out of the residence. Acting as a progressing, intense and rigorous star master, Su Xing did not have any extra time to idly waste away. His daily business of cultivating was even more tiring than the drills he attended during his time as a soldier. Fortunately, Su Xing could quite easily adapt. Thinking of the second phase birth outline that was on the verge of commencing, he was too far behind. If he did not overtake his strength, he certainly would not last. Looking at the 2 beauties at his side, Su Xing also thought of protecting them, and not letting them protect him. At the Heavenly River Market Workshop, Su Xing sought Thunder Fire Sand, thinking of continuing forging a few Thunder Fire bullets. Currently, it seemed he possessed several exceptional artifacts, but none were as handy and satisfactory as Silver Blade. It was a pity that searching the square for half a day, he only found not even 10 decagrams of Thunder Fire Sand, which was far from enough. After exchanging the Blossom Steel Beast and a few useless items for gold, he then looked around the square to see if there was anything he would like for himself. After the water and land assembly passed, the Heavenly River Square settled down by a lot. Shopping around for a long while, Su Xing only used 2 golden tooth mechanical discs and more than a dozen liang of gold in exchange for a high-grade nebula artifact, pure gold shield. That was pretty good. Returning home and entering the lobby, he saw Suan presently calling a girl to come eat. The girl was carefree, gorging herself upon what she was eating entirely without a lady's awareness. It was the thief star, Shi Qian. "You guys are back." Shi Yuan wiped her mouth. "How was your investigation? The Blooming Water Sword sect deserves to be one of the 4 great sword sects. It was truly imposing, and you guys really ought to see the 5 great efficacious summits hall." Shi Yuan spoke in admiration. "The point?" The thief star shrugged her shoulders helplessly, saying, "It's no good. That calamitous thunder evil smiting array of the Blooming Water Hall is too powerful. This young lady completely had no way of getting close, and recently, the Blooming Water Hall's defenses have been extremely tight. It was very difficult to approach." "Even you couldn't do it?" Wu Xinjie knit her brow, somewhat regretful. "If it's like this, then forget about it." Su Xing was not stubborn and unchangeable. It was something he needed to obtain, and although it was somewhat of a pity, if he felt around things himself, he may not necessarily be unable to feel out a way to do this. And Suan giggled. "Little sister Shi Yuan, don't keep your listeners in suspense, just say it directly." The thief star laughed. "Su Xing, you truly look down on the thief star, too much. Actually, stealing is not impossible, but it will require Su Xing and my sister's aid." "What can we even do?" Lin Yingmei asked. "You must let Su Xing and I cooperate together." Shi Yuan giggled. She already observed at the Blooming Water Hall for a very long time. The surrounding disciples she could avoid, but the calamitous thunder evil smiting array required that she rely on the Avoid Thunder Divine Talisman 5 to make things work. The problem was that although the Avoid Thunder Divine Talisman could evade, it would alarm the Blooming Water Sword sect. If that Taoist Luo River started the sect protection great array and sealed the mountain, then the thief star would truly be a bird in a cage. The only way to do this was precisely to mount Su Xing to urge on the flight artifact to escape. "Your meaning is to let the young master and you rush the Blooming Water Sword sect together? This is too dangerous." Wu Xinjie hesitated. That place was a 4 great sword sect after all. Its adepts were countless, and it was completely hard to imagine running away in the case that they were spotted. Lin Yingmei also creased her brow. This young lady alone truly has no solution. Shi Yuan was for a lack of a better option. She was not capable of flying, and even if she obtained the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True technique, she could not escape past the sect protection great array. This type of great array certainly was not something she, the thief star, could break away from. "I agree," Su Xing said resolutely. "After all, this is my business, and I can't let her do everything by herself. I also must assume some risk." This sounded very fair. Making the thief star take the risk by herself, he would not be able to relax. The knowledge star was speechless. 6. The thief star blinked. Gazing at Su Xing, her eyes had some surprise and amazement. "Su Xing, you've thought this over clearly? This young lady certainly is not your star general. There's no guarantee that this young lady will share the trials and tribulations together. Can't say for sure that this young lady would seek an opportunity to eradicate you." 7. Shi Yuan smiled yet did not, reminding Su Xing that at least in some respects, they were not exactly friends nor were they necessarily bitter enemies. Only a bit of brain was needed to understand how dangerous of an existence the enemy that could contract the knowledge star and the majestic star was. I have no reason to oppose you doing things this way. Su Xing smiled very indifferently. Then Xinjie had better first chat with master. Wu Xinjie apologetically glanced at Ensuan, pulling Su Xing out the door. An observant person could discern that the knowledge star already appeared to be shaken by thief star Shiqian's words. Shiqian smiled and nodded. Lin Yingmei stood in the doorway, surreptitiously sizing up the thief star, while also watching Wu Xinjie and Su Xing's discussion. Master, do you really want to go? This is too dangerous. The knowledge star's expression was very grave. Rushing alone one of the 4 great sword sects under heaven. This absolutely was not as easy as labyrinths and monuments. The blooming water sword sect has a star master. And handling any sort of star master. 8. They do not know compassion or leniency. Wu Xinjie warned. Its resounding name as a 4 great sword sect describing it as upright notwithstanding. If something implicated its own interests, these upright's decisiveness in killing was even more firm than a demonic cult's. If Shiqian deliberately gave away a permeating rumor, 9, to the blooming water sword sect, Su Xing going like this possibly was walking right into a trap. Doing things like this for the sake of a blooming water divine thunder true technique was not at all worth it. Actually, what made Wu Xinjie this nervous was also precisely the thief star Shi Yuan's identity. Acting as a top-notch robber, knowing how to assess the situation was the key to her excellence. And it was hard to say if there was a dagger hidden under her smile. After all, the thief star indeed flaunted before talk of the likes of Shi and Lin Chong as generals that did not sign contracts. Being able to declare this sort of proclamation made clear that Shi Yuan had wild schemes. She would not be this resigned to fate. An excellent thief will always be more terrifying than an assassin at the pivotal moment. The knowledge star even felt Shi Yuan deliberately spoke out those words about herself possibly being trapped to make Su Xing's trust turn blind, because saying as such often would make people feel the other party was being straightforward without evil intentions. And it was precisely that the knowledge star felt that this was even more suspicious. This sort of petty trick by the other party, Wu Xinjie would be damned to be overlook it. Xinjie, I know you care about me, but servants that do not doubt suspicious people are useless. Since it was me who requested she go do this, she putting forth a request is very reasonable. If I backed out, wouldn't that mean I'm afraid? Do you want to see me afraid? Su Xing calmly looked at the young girl. Your servant will protect master. If she betrays you, your servant definitely will make her regret it. Lin Yingmei coldly opened her mouth, staring at the Shi Yuan on the table drinking beer. Actually, the meaning in her words just about showed belief in the thief star. The knowledge star was powerless. Yingmei, you and the young master saying as such, Xinjie unexpectedly seems to be on the opposite side. Su Xing smiled, stroking her soft and smooth cheek. Don't worry, I won't sit and wait for death. He moved close to the knowledge star's ear, and said these few words. Wu Xinjie's face reddened, somewhat bashfully nodding her head. 10. Shi Yuan, you wouldn't really entrap young Master Su Xing, would you? And Suan also felt worried. Shi Yuan smiled without answering as she drank beer. Sister Suan, this young lady suddenly also wants to sign with a contractor. 11. With little sister Shi Yuan's capabilities, finding one would not be difficult at all. And Suan consoled. A true gentleman will sacrifice his life for a friend who understands him. But just who would bother go taking risks for a thief? Shi Yuan shook her head. Her gaze watched Su Xing and his 2-star generals. An indescribably envy bubbled up in her mind, making her drink several gulps displeased. 12 and Suan looked on pensively. 1. Right arrow curving left 2. I thought he swallowed a blooming water thunder dragon pill, not the divine thunder itself. Oh well. Right arrow curving left 3. Right arrow curving left 4. Right arrow curving left 5. Right arrow curving left 6. This isn't the first time he's done something stupid. Right arrow curving left 7. Not if he makes you swoon for him first. Right arrow curving left 8. Meaning star masters besides their own. Right arrow curving left 9. Basically accusing her of deliberately leaking information. Right arrow curving left 10. There we have it. Su Xing has embraced his inner lady killer instincts. Right arrow curving left 11. There's one right here. Right arrow curving left 12. Thus she reveals her inner doubts. Her boisterous mannerisms conceal confidence issues. Fret not, fair maiden, for Su Xing is the man you seek. Moonlight and stars sparse, a dark night and high winds. The thief star Shi brought Su Xing to carefully infiltrate the blooming water sword sect, just easily passing through the sentries of the outer halls, stopping behind a tree. You still actually dared to come along, huh? Shi Yuan showed a narrow smile to Su Xing. What wouldn't I dare do? Su Xing vigilantly watched his surroundings. This blooming water sword sect's precautions were excessively strict. Sword sect disciples could be seen everywhere. And if it were not for the thief star leading the way, avoiding being detected would have been extremely difficult otherwise. Just as he thought this, another several sword sect disciples walked by. Their scents were right under his nose. Su Xing held his breath. Senior brother Zhonglin is truly amazing. He only entered the ranks of star cultivators for just 3 years, and he is already at Nebula late stage. I heard he even killed the Heavenly River Sword School at the Flower Dragon Cave, and obtained a galaxy stage artifact, the Blood Rain Pot. 2. Right these days, the headmaster already passed on the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True Technique incantation to him. A star cultivator that can form a contract is truly a cause for envy. We've stayed at the Sword Sect for 4 or 5 years, and still haven't broken through to Nebula stage. Just how can we compare to a star master? In order for senior brother Zhonglin to emerge victorious from the star duels, the headmaster definitely vigorously patronized him. I heard a secluded ancestral master specially left the mountain. AI, as long as you can contract a star general, it's all good. Without strength to sign a contract, those trash star generals completely lacking fighting capabilities simply are asking for a dead end. Those powerful fiend stars simply won't pay attention to us. We had better honestly and sincerely cultivate. And you said it. The headmaster said we cannot bite off more than we can chew. An adept suddenly yelled, "You junior brothers, what are you still blabbering about? Senior brother Zhonglin's star general is currently training. The headmaster had cause to let us train with her." All right, the dozen sword sect disciples hurriedly ran over. The Su Xing and Shi Yuan, who silently overheard the entire exchange, looked at each other. I wonder which sister received such hospitality from the blooming water sword sect. The flea on a drum covered her mouth. Compared to these sects that possessed robust strength, Su Xing just discovered that he was truly fortunate to have reached his current stage on his own. Are we going to go take a look? Shi Qian said. Now. To get to the overboard peak, we need to pass through the sword training courtyard anyways. The thief star surveyed the surroundings, and then her figure fled away, seemingly dissolving like a graceful civet into the night. Su Xing promptly followed her up. The blooming water sword sect sword training courtyard was a massive elevated platform. Its surroundings had 4 water dragon steels embedded with colored glass and precious gems. Within the dark night, the clear radiance emitted brightly lit the sword training grounds. Currently, 100 sword sect disciples assembled on the sword training grounds. They could be seen with flying swords grasped in hand, or manipulated or swung, or used for magic, or every sort of prominent power. Standing atop the platform was a challenger, who was an extraordinary girl, wearing light blue temple dress. Her hair rolled up by a sparkling and translucent jade hairpin, and her waist was wrapped by crimson silk, while she wore a pair of waterwalk phoenix shoes. 3. Her skirt was arranged like slightly swelling waves that reflected and floated out clear and crystalline light in such a large sword training courtyard, almost like she was stepping on water. The girl's forehead had a blue, gorgeous astral crest, flickering in extremely beautiful and splendid light. The weapon her hand grasped was very strange. It was a green scaly dragon tail, a trident with its entire length sparkling. Under Wu Xingjia's teaching, Su Xing already more or less understood a few of Maiden Mountain's star maidens' characteristic destined star weapons. This exquisite and extraordinary was perhaps the jade water turtle dragon trident, the retreating star river churning clam's destined star weapon. The river churning clam retreating star Tong was ranked in power as Maiden Mountain's 69th. Her military strength was average, but she possessed excellent aquatic martial arts. If she were to fight on water, Even a few of the heavenly stars may not necessarily be her opponent. A river-churning dragon, not just in name, but also in reality. Seeing that jade water turtle dragon trident surrounded by a blue starlight, it must be refined to at least 1 star. Could it be you all haven't eaten? Hurry and use your skills. At least act like men, and not let Yaoer feel bored. The retreating star's tone was brimming with unhappiness. Is the blooming water sword sect all these pieces of trash? Her words that were ruthless roused the indignation of the sword sect disciples. A dozen disciples urged on their hand seals, their flying swords unsheathed, and turned into a single sword array. The other disciples' took the opportunity to brandish and cut their swords toward her. This is only slightly interesting. Yaoer spun her jade water turtle dragon trident, and the light reflecting from the floor seemingly rose suddenly. When it clashed directly with the other sword array, the array completely collapsed, and a water light scattered in every direction from the weapon. It was like a dragon had just emerged from the sea, suddenly giving birth to wind, and reducing those besieging disciples into disorder. Their sorry figures tumbled onto the sword training courtyard. Yet a dozen flying swords turned into blue lights that shot straight towards the retreating star. The girl moved just a tad, and the jade water turtle dragon trident shot down the flying swords. The attack was grand in scale and unstoppable. Give me a bit more effort, and use your styles. Lin Chong is definitely not like you in competence. A disciple glanced towards Chen Zhonglin. Chen Zhonglin nodded. Then excuse me. A disciple shouted, even striking hand seals, and the other disciples responded in succession. The Blooming Water Sword sect was a school of sword cultivators, and as such, they were very proficient in the sword arts. Conventional military forces in Liangshan continent that could emerge victorious over a star general were not many, but the star generals were not necessarily dominant over sword arts. Several hundred flying swords decorated the sword training courtyard, imposing as a rainbow. Brightly shining on the people, Su Xing was transfixed. Under the sword sect disciples' call, the flying swords emitted water thunder, and linked together into a great net. The retreating star at last put away her boredom, both hands grasping her polearm for luck. A dark blue brilliance swept out from the jade water turtle dragon trident, and the Chen Zhonglin to the side did not dare to be careless, striking hand seals and imbuing star energy. The water thunder flying sword spread and covered the sky. The might of the water thunder flower sword array, 5 fully utilized by 100 disciples, was even more terrifying than an artifact. The retreating star river churning clam Tong Meng was indifferent as she rotated her feet in a half circle. Her body slightly turned, and the jade water turtle dragon trident became like a soaring, coiling dragon that tore through the sky. Its water dragon body engulfed the entire sword training courtyard and continued to expand. Even if he was 100 meters away, Su Xing could feel the water dragon attack towards him. This water dragon just swept and leveled the sword training courtyard. Those disciples were struck one by one, and those flying swords were washed away like dead leaves in a river. It was not for Tong Yao painstakingly holding back her power. This move would have killed at least half the sword sect disciples. So powerful. Is this a yellow rank battle technique, or a dark rank battle technique? Su Xing was dumbstruck by what he saw. It is said that the Star Maidens altogether had 4 types of different ranks of battle techniques: heaven and earth, dark and yellow. 6. When each type of battle technique was used, that was always a great, all-destroying and ruthless move. It was rare to use this without reaching the critical moment, because this was very taxing on their strength. Yaoer, that was done not half bad. The water dragon captures heaven, overflows the sea. 7 is more and more proficient, even easily breaking the water thunder flower sword array. It seems it won't be long before you should comprehend the dark rank style. Chen Zhonglin clapped. It's still too early. Tong Yao took a deep breath, dully replying. Looking at everyone around her, she coldly smiled. Come at me again. Tong Yao isn't done playing yet. Young master, we should leave. Shi Qian tugged Su Xing. Although he was very astonished by the girl's power, Su Xing did not forget his own job. The sword training courtyard was still a place to train the sword, and Su Xing's heart gave rise to a trace of waves. Not only just he, But the rest of Liangshan's star masters were all trying hard. Even earthly stars would not give up any opportunities. On this road to chase after the final victor, inside this utterly unfair game, everyone would not tread very relaxed. Due to the retreating star Tong Yao practicing sword techniques, she attracted the attention of a great portion of the Blooming Water Sword sect's disciples. Entering the overboard peak was exceptionally smooth, and the two guards at the Blooming Water Hall, that were as motionless as a mountain, became the only difficult problem. The two star cultivators' cultivations were not inferior to Su Xing's. If he was to mount a sneak attack, that would be too risky. Su Xing was just thinking about whether or not he should use a diversionary tactic when he saw Shi Yuan gently and cautiously take out a wooden box. Opening the wooden box, several mosquitoes flew out. Seeing Su Xing's perplexed expression, the flea on a drum smiled evilly. "You just wait and see." Shi Yuan softly exhaled. Those mosquitoes flew toward the star cultivator's standing guard, and he saw the mosquitoes spin a few loops around the star cultivator's surroundings. One of the cultivators then yawned incessantly, leaned against the wall and fell asleep. "Hey, get up! Don't you be lazy!" The other cultivator unhappily yelled. The mosquitoes flew some more loops. He suddenly felt his eyelids become heavy, and then he drunkenly entered a dream just like that. Su Xing was stupefied. What sort of trick was this? Was this not too extraordinary? The thief star saw through Su Xing's thoughts, twitching her lips in disapproval. These are only several of this young lady's specially raised drowsy bugs. 2. Is it that magical? Toppling a couple of nebulous stage cultivators, just like this, it was more ridiculous than an artifact. Shi Yuan shook her head. The drowsy bugs actually were not as powerful as Su Xing believed. In the first place, the target had to feel extremely fatigued. Only when they were under a completely relaxed and danger-free mental state could they be put to sleep by the drowsy bugs. As a professional, virtuous and trained thief, keeping this sort of gadget on her person was very reasonable. Su Xing nevertheless felt goosebumps. The odd insects lurking in Liangshan continent were many as expected. He truly could not be careless. If someday someone were to loose drowsy bugs upon him, then he would indeed be trampled over. You don't need to be wary about this sort of matter, Su Xing. You're a star master. Your star generals will help you dispose of it. The thief star smiled. The two people walked out, and Shi Yuan made Su Xing keep watch as she alone entered the Blooming Water Scripture Depository Hall. 3. The night wind gently blew. Su Xing stood on Overboard Peak's crest, and above him was the Star River in the sky. Hundreds of stars were like pearls hidden under the Milky Way, dazzling resplendently, twinkling and glimmering, a brilliant radiance. Regardless of where or when, raising your head to gaze at the hundreds of bright stars would intimidate anyone's heart in this way. Lin Yingmei emerged from the star nest, standing guard to one side. The girl's eyes occasionally glanced at that bustling sword training courtyard at the bottom of the mountain. After the scene of a giant beatdown at the sword training courtyard, the 100 Blooming Water Sword sect disciples fell disorderly onto the ground where they stood. Their strength exhausted, the sole girl left standing on the platform still looked to be in great spirits. Enough. Yao, this should do it for today. Chen Zhonglin wiped his sweat. As a star master, supporting this much star energy also made him unbearably tired. The retreating star, river-churning clam Tong Meng, recalled her jade water turtle dragon trident. 5, and lightly jumped off the platform. It's a pity your sword sect cannot find a martial expert that can genuinely match up to the military might of the likes of Lin Chong. Tong Yao pursed her lips, bearing disappointment. It can't be helped. True sword cultivators are few enough to be counted on one hand. Chen Zhonglin just had no way out of this. Liangshan continent's star cultivators were closely associated with combat artifacts. If their most feared enemy was too close, what good would high martial skills do? Unless it was a sword cultivator who reached that sort of great realm. Otherwise they only had a pretty appearance with no substance. Even if a late-stage sword cultivator had powerful abilities, they rarely used them. Mostly they waited on sword arrays and sword arts 6, training their martial arts. They might as well cultivate their divine intent, for that was even more worthwhile. This was Liangshan continent's mainstream thinking. Of course, Maiden Mountain star generals naturally could not be mentioned on equal terms. These fiend stars possessing legendary star weapons took sword-cleaving technique as something to be easily grasped, like how the star energy realms of star cultivators also lacked importance in their eyes. Walking to the overboard peak, Tong Yao abruptly lifted her head, staring at the mountaintop, her brow tightly wrinkled. "Yao, what's the matter?" Chen Zhonglin asked. Yao seemed to have sensed a sister just now. Tong Yao said eagerly. Chen Zhonglin smiled. "No way. That star general is so stupid as to dare run to the blooming water sword sect to seek death." Tong Yao's sternness made Chen Zhonglin's smile slowly fade. He had also heard before some things about star generals mutually attracting towards each other. Could it be they're here to steal the true thunder true technique? 7. But that's still useless without a divine thunder. Worry about that after we go up and take a look. Alright, Zhonglin just happens to have a few blooming water arts that aren't practiced. Outside the blooming water hall, Su Xing still stood guard at the overboard peak. Lin Yingmei thought for a long time, then asked him, "Young master, the knowledge star didn't come along. Does master have something arranged to prevent unexpected events?" Su Xing glanced at the Shi Yuan currently inside the hall breaking the array. Being a bit careful has never been a bad thing. Lin Yingmei thought that this was natural, but there was one thing she did not understand. Why does master believe in the thief star so much? Xinjia's conjecture is very reasonable. As your servant sees it, if it was anyone else, they would have definitely already been convinced by the knowledge star. The Panther head had quite the new level of respect for Su Xing on this point. Put anyway, the knowledge star, the resourceful star Wu Yong, was a wise general. Her analyses and hypotheses would surely compel others to believe her. Especially since a few months ago, the knowledge star already produced a similar situation. But Su Xing nevertheless had his own thoughts, not at all entangled in the past. "Yingmei, you didn't stop me either, though?" Su Xing smiled. "Your servant was only believing in master." Lin Yingmei calmly replied. "Even being able to forecast the worst outcome, would you still say that you're afraid?" Su Xing asked back. "Is it like this?" Lin Yingmei nodded. "The retreating star is headed towards here." Lin Yingmei put away her relaxed manner, staring coldly down the mountain. Su Xing blanked out. "Just the retreating star?" "Yes." Lin Yingmei's divine intent already caught onto Tong Yao the moment it mobilized. The panther head's inquiring gaze was directed at Su Xing, awaiting his decision. Presently, the retreating star suddenly rushed towards this place. Whether this was a trap or a coincidence was all under Su Xing's judgment. If it was a trap, taking advantage of the sword sect Great Array, having not been activated, and leaving beforehand was the most logical choice. Certainly, this premise necessitated abandoning Shiqian. If he felt that this was a coincidence, then he had to obstruct the retreating star before Shi Yuan came out. Looking at their attitudes, it was evident that they were rushing towards the blooming water hall. It shouldn't be a trap. It's a coincidence. Su Xing's mind turned. If it was a trap, then he could only say that this trap was too silly. They could not even do the simplest ambush. "Stop her," Su Xing ordered without the slightest hesitation. The excited brilliance within the eyes of the Tong Yao currently rushing up the mountain grew increasingly extreme. Just now, she already felt a thread of divine intent sweep past her. And she secretly relayed a message to Chen Zhonglin. "Master, look out!" Tong Yao suddenly shouted. The jade water turtle dragon trident was like a scared dragon, a roll of jade light sprinkling about. Two silhouettes dropped down in front of them. Under the moonlight, there appeared a man and a woman, immediately shaking up Tong Yao and Chen Zhonglin. The man's soldierly appearance was out of the ordinary, and the girl's heroic beauty was biting cold. "You brazen sinful thief. Unexpectedly rushing the blooming water sword sect, you're courting death." Chen Zhonglin shouted. "Star Master, calm down a bit. If it's going to be like this, only a one-on-one star duel has any meaning." Su Xing slightly smiled, a heavenly river water sword in hand. Lin Yingmei scowled coldly at them. With spear in hand, they were like a pair of evil calamities. A Star Master, Chen Zhonglin went blank. Panther head Lin Chong. The retreating star, river-churning clam Tong Yao's pupil shrunk. The majestic star panther head Lin Chang's fame for fighting prowess was truly exceptional. When everyone saw Lin Yingmei's Arctic star spear, their expressions all seemed to have been produced by a factory. Besides shock, they also felt inconceivability towards Su Xinghumph. By the time Lin Yingmei's cold grunt ended, she had already executed her assault, immediately sending dust flying. It was already too late to let them be astonished, for the majestic star was acting. For the sake of fighting for time for Shi Qian, Lin Yingmei also did not want to speak nonsense. Using the fiercest assault to interrupt their pondering was the best solution. During a moment when they have not regained their senses quickly, it was only natural that if there was an opportunity to get rid of an opponent, that was not a bad thing. The retreating star Tong Meng's reactions were exceedingly quick, disappearing from where she was. From within the air flashed an acute light. The Arctic star spear and the jade water trident already collided together, unexpectedly stopping Lin Yingmei's quick and violent attack. The water light and cold qi became one. The river-churning clam Tong Yao did not train fruitlessly at the Blooming Water Sword Sect sword training courtyard. Not only was she able to block this attack, the girl suddenly chuckled. She exhibited high speed, calmly and swiftly counter-attacking like a violent tide. The jade water trident's technique of attack was overwhelming. Lin Yingmei dexterously received it, her spear just like a shield. The girl's brow raised, stepping around where she was, and with a great leap into the air, making an aerial slash, and at the same time, exerted her entire body's star energy. That speed was how fast. How time flies fleeting. Resounding words. The sharp and clear cries of metal meeting made people's hearts sink. Tong Yao blocked Lin Yingmei's surprise slash with great difficulty. The Arctic star spear's formidable power shook from its body directly to her hand. You deserve respect. Lin Yingmei rarely showed recognition. Perhaps, like Su Xing, she also admired the river-churning clam Tong Yao's effortful practice at the sword training courtyard. At the moment, this was still Tong Yao's already exhausted state. Tong Yao coldly smiled. She did not need this kind of respect that was earned only when she was weak. The river-churning clam suddenly retreated backward, and then with a step, actually identically leapt into the air and made an aerial cut. Lin Yingmei accepted it without question, Tong Yao's attacks again and again bullying her. The majestic star clutched her spear with a single hand, turning her hand over, and easily returning it back. The spear tip seemed to be tearing open a line as Lin Yingmei's offensive timing increased, and Tong Yao repeatedly retreated. While Lin Yingmei fought for time, Su Xing was not idle. In fact, at the time the panther head took action, he simultaneously acted to handle Chen Zhonglin. Star Masters duels often were just like this, Star General with Star General, Contractor with Contractor, and among this could they reveal their talent, show their skill and be called matchless. In order to not alarm the rest of the Blooming Water Sword sect, Su Xing also gave up attacking with artifacts, the Heavenly River sword directly pointed at them. His unconventional gambit, however, was broken up by the true qi protecting Chen Zhonglin. After all, he was Blooming Water Sword sect disciple, which was far more brilliant compared to an inferior organization, such as the Thousand Machine Gang. Chen Zhonglin put two fingers together, and a blue flying sword flew out in the blink of an eye. Then, under the control of his divine intent, the sword turned into fierce water and shot forth. Su Xing leaned back, the pure gold shield suddenly increasing in size many times and positioned itself in front of him. Water transformation sword art. Chen Zhonglin struck several seals, and the sword water abruptly became dense, changing into a dozen water blades. The pure gold shield revolved around Su Xing's body, looking like an impenetrable defense tightly wrapped around him. The water sword violently struck upon the pure gold shield's surface, but aside from sending droplets of pearls and jade splashing about, it lacked the strength to break through. Chen Zhonglin was not slighted at all, and he continued to urge the sword art onward. The dozen water blades rotated quickly in the air above, condensing into a torrential downpour that directly hacked downwards towards Su Xing. The pure gold shield could stop an attack on the whole body, but it had no way of stopping even a peep from above. This was the first time Su Xing experienced the sword arts that enjoyed much fame in Liangshan continent. Immediately, he threw out a small object, and that object swelled many tens of sizes when it left his bag. Propping it open, it blocked above Su Xing. This happened to be that high-grade nebula stage artifact, heaven-concealing parasol. The water transformation sword art being blocked by the parasol was considered to have made Chen Zhonglin surprised for a bit. The gale upon his face transformed into thunder and lightning. Su Xing took advantage of the gap in Chen Zhonglin's control over the transforming water sword art. With a single bound, he swiftly moved like a snake, seemingly spitting poison and venom. The silver blade in his hand coldly flashed suddenly, the flickering astral crest upon his forehead breaking Chen Zhonglin's protective true qi, and the sword tip erasing his neck. Chen Zhonglin was overwhelmed with shock, but just at the moment silver blade brushed past his neck, Chen Zhonglin's body transformed into a pile of water flowers, having used a water escape to avoid a disaster. Su Xing went blank, and without hesitation, raised the gun, took aim, and pulled the trigger. SFX Ka. 3. A muted sound. The Chen Zhonglin that happened to appear at that position thought Su Xing was about to use some other damnable trick, recalling the transforming water sword to block his front. Su Xing seized the opportunity to move forwards and rush over. Su Xing's about-face staggered Chen Zhonglin's defenses, and a cold light streaked across his stomach. Damn it! Faint traces of blood appeared. Chen Zhonglin did not expect the star cultivator before his eyes to close the distance again and again. If this bastard was not destitute, that he would not have any sort of powerful artifact, sword art or sage art, then he certainly believed in his own military force too much. If it was not for him expending too much star energy at the sword training courtyard earlier, his present state would simply not necessarily be this sorry. A rumbling explosion. The blooming water hall suddenly shook thunderously, and the light of the pearls suspended on the hall instantly dimmed. Not good, the calamitous thunder evil smiting array has been broken. Chen Zhonglin shouted in horror. They have an accomplice. These words had only just dropped when the completely clothed in black thief star Shi Qian dodged out of the blooming water hall. Young master, item is in hand. Let's go quickly. Shi Yuan yelled. Although Su Xing and Lin Yingmei occupied the maximum possible advantage at this moment, even if they used up just a bit more time, they could settle their troubles in one fell swoop, by means of profiting from their counterparts squandering the majority of their star energy at the sword training courtyard. However, there already was not any just a bit of time that they could waste. After the calamitous thunder evil smiting array was broken, the entire blooming water sect was already alerted. The sect protection grade array already was starting to activate, and staying any longer was certain death without doubt. The wind-swayed raft appeared. Su Xing's final sword pushed aside Chen Zhonglin, and he spat out several rock-piercing thunder water droplets. Chen Zhonglin gave a shrill blood-curdling screech. Lin Yingmei nodded. Her spear held horizontally also pushed back the retreating star, as she floated, and entered the wind-swayed raft. Ascend! The wind-swayed raft rushed into the skies. Thinking of running? Chen Zhonglin twisted, no longer caring as much. A very red gourd flew out in the blink of an eye and chased behind Su Xing. The gourd suddenly shot a red light, and a wide expanse of blood-colored raindrops fired out from the lip of the gourd like a torrential downpour. This was precisely the blood rain pot. Su Xing opened the heaven-concealing parasol and covered it. The blood-colored raindrops were extremely swift and fierce. The power of the long-range strikes on the heaven-concealing parasol made Su Xing's divine intent feel maximum stress. Fortunately, the star cultivator himself was in utterly poor condition. Chen Zhonglin vomited a large mouthful of blood, and the blood rain pot's light faded, dropping back into his astral bag. Senior brother Zhonglin. What happened? The other blooming water sect disciples rushed over. Seeing the scene of Chen Zhonglin's and his star general's sorry and wounded figures, they were very much flabbergasted. Chen Zhonglin watched the vanishing wind-swayed raft, his face unsightly beyond compare. The wind-swayed raft flew out 100 li in the blink of an eye, And it was just at this time that a translucent light covered the blooming water sect's overboard summit, shrouding it within. With that small of a difference, Su Xing and the others would have become caged birds. However, now was still not the time to rejoice, for biggest danger had just begun. A powerful star energy radiated from behind them as the blooming water sword sect's headmaster, the Taoist Luo River, furiously closed in on them. Su Xing already had the knowledge star manufacture a few disturbances at the bottom of the 5 efficacious heavenly mountains, creating a diversion to draw away the blooming water sword sect's head minister. But Su Xing had still underestimated a galaxy cultivator's abilities. Taoist Luo River raised his flying sword, a soaring light. Although that twinkling could not cover 1,000 li, covering 100 li in the blink of an eye was not a problem at all. If it was not for making Taoist Luo River leave the blooming water sword sect by quite a distance in advance, then it was possible that once the blooming water array activated, Taoist Luo River would have already killed them. Thinking of this, Su Xing seemed to be facing a great enemy. Knowing that he was not able to outrun the Taoist Luo River's escape technique, he glimpsed a thorny and thick forest beneath him. He dodged and hid into the shrubbery below, at the same time activating the 72 roads concealing star technique to hide his presence. Lin Yingmei was also self-aware that she could not leave herself outside, otherwise the opponent's divine intent would easily lock onto her. Hence, she became starlight and entered Su Xing's star nest. The thief star's entire body was also stretched taut. Fortunately, she had the wordless and uncommunicative yellow rank magic. Because of the magic she mobilized as a star general, galaxy cultivators could not necessarily find her. Su Xing originally thought of letting her flee first on her own. He was on the verge of saying so when he choked it back down. For just at this time, a middle-aged man wearing a blue Taoist robe too appeared overhead this brambly forest. The one who stopped was exactly the Taoist Luo River. The Taoist Luo River held both hands behind his back, standing straight against the wind, standing on a 3-3 flying sword with a learned air about him, motionless as a mountain. Several tens of flying swords floated at his side, faintly completing an array. How comical, unexpectedly hiding your abilities before this Taoist. The Taoist Luo River's pair of eyes suddenly shot pure light. Shouting, incomparably tyrannical, almost as if it had substance, divine intent emanated in all directions from his eyes. The more than 3 zhang of trees and rock were successively dashed into tiny pieces and annihilated to smithereens by this divine intent that filled the entire area. This blooming water sword sect headmaster was exceptional, as expected. A radius of almost 10 li had been enshrouded by his surly and abnormal divine intent. Each and every move, every iota, the slightest movement were all transmitted into the Taoist Luo River's mind. Under the strafing of a galaxy late stage's divine intent, the 72 roads concealing star technique unexpectedly was a bit outmatched. Faint star energy dispersed, already having fluctuations. The heart of the Su Xing who examined this situation tightened, not knowing what to do. His star energy's fluctuations were more and more intense, and the 72 roads concealing star technique was already on the verge of collapse, about to dissipate at any moment. In a few more seconds, his body was about to be exposed under the Taoist Luo River's divine intent strafing. Arriving at this critical juncture, Su Xing drew in a long breath, contrarily calming down. He was about to apply that heart-like mirror's absolute sincerity soul technique, entering the stable heart realm. At this time, how could anyone anticipate the thief star Shi Yuan would be more anxious than Su Xing? In a moment of desperation, regardless of the actual situation, she suddenly leaned forward, and embracing Su Xing in both her arms, she kissed him. The Lin Chong inside the star nest trembled. Su Xing opened both his eyes wide. Hooking onto the girl's tongue, his mind floated away. An exotic fragrance assailed his nostrils, and the wordless and uncommunicative qi hiding art was passed through the tongue and enveloped Su Xing immediately. Each of their presences suddenly disappeared. Both of Su Xing's hands tightened as he shut his eyes and applied the soul technique. Controlling his state of mind, there was somewhat of a mishap. Both he and the thief star could possibly be exposed. Heart still as water, spirit support clear and clean, and willpower deft, his heart was an empty mirror. 5. The spiritual power revolving around Su Xing's surroundings was unable to bear the divine intense attack, at last dispersing in all 4 directions and escaping. The divine intent swept past Su Xing and the other's hiding spot, yet it found an empty space without a single thing. The Su Xing right now was just inside a sort of profound realm, similar to staying on a bright and empty platform. Green hills and running water, conforming to heaven and earth, and extremely high auspicious red clouds. His body seemed to have become one with heaven and earth. Astonishingly, it was the unattainable path of oneness of heaven and man. 6. Using one's own heart to connect with the heart of heaven and earth. Some practitioners finished their lives without entering this state, and there were cultivators who practiced for several days who, because of one time, realized it was possible. Degree of merit, intensity of star energy, and acquired realms all did not matter purely, because this was a sort of indiscernible fate. The advantages and disadvantages of entering the path of oneness of heaven and man were not explained clearly by anyone. Some people appreciated the will of heaven, increasing their merit and advancing their skills. Some people got lost within the boundlessness of the will of heaven, their very spirit assimilated by the will of heaven, ceasing to exist. Fortunately, Su Xing had practiced the heart-like mirror soul technique. He was very familiar with this sort of thing that disturbed the heart. 7. Setting his state of mind, a heart to hold on to his own mind, he did not accept any foreign disturbances, retaining his own consciousness. During this time devoid of life, it seemed everything had been frozen. The unending high mountains were motionless, the mist not dancing, the clear water not flowing, a choking and constraining that would make one feel unable to breathe. The heart calm like water at this sort of time and space fixed the world into something even more unbearably terrifying. The spirit seemed to transform into rotten dust, experiencing 1,000 years of tempering and refining. Su Xing remained unmoved, wholly maintaining that motionlessness, this silence of unmoving. This stationary void seemed to know Su Xing's intentions, rigidly unchanging. It was always this stifling scenario. He did not know how much time passed, like it had been a few centuries, but it was also like a single moment. Su Xing, after all, was only a man. He was far from reaching the indifferent realm of Taoists. Although his will was firm, to be in this kind of environment for a very long time without knowing how to get out, that still like water mental state also rippled, showing a weak point. Su Xing hastily calmed his mind, applying the spirit art. Luckily, Su Xing's determination to pass the chaotic tail escape and heart, like mirrors double tempering, and refining once more added to a soldier's endurance that an ordinary person absolutely could not bear. This stillness was like a millennium. Mirror without a stand, look at mountains not as mountains, look at water not as water. An incantation suddenly flashed like an epiphany through Su Xing's mind. Was this not a verse of admonishment from the admonition riddle? Su Xing was enlightened with perfect wisdom, where a flash of light made everything clear. He no longer clung obstinately to his mind. Rather, he looked towards the middle of this taciturn mountain and river. During this slowness, under Su Xing's divine intent, this landscape finally began to flow. The empty world all of a sudden brimmed with vitality, coming alive, like peeled-off eggshells. It transformed into countless bizarre symbols, characters twisting like tadpoles, all deeply engraved into Su Xing's mind. That lump of emptiness slowly retreated and scattered, finally disappearing from Su Xing's eyes without a trace. Su Xing could be considered very fortunate. Under Shi Qian's uncommunicative and the heart-like mirror simultaneous usage, he unexpectedly entered the absolute sincerity soul techniques, see mountains not as mountains second realm. Previously, when he broke through the first realm, Su Xing on more than one occasion thought of entering the second realm, yet all along, he could not attain enlightenment. It seemed this absolute sincerity soul technique needed its origin to work. In the middle of the soul technique, a few refined incantations transmitted into his mind. Unexpectedly, these were several of the heart-like mirror soul technique's abilities. Oneness of heaven and man. 8. mirror without a stand. 9. An empty mountains and rivers. 10. Oneness of heaven and man. A type of excellent qi hiding technique. Compared with the thief star Shi Qian's wordless and communicative, it was not at all inferior. Mirror without a stand. Set to guard the mind, expelling fantasies and warding off evil spirits, demons and monsters, magic noises and demon technique, none lacking rapid escape. And the empty mountains and rivers, then was granting and displaying a fantastical landscape to trap the target. However, it required expending enormous amounts of star energy, and could not necessarily succeed. If the heart-like mirror soul technique had originally only been a temperament cultivation soul technique, not seeing Master Mirror's life of cultivating essence, entering the second realm of the absolute sincerity soul technique, was genuinely stepping into the top-notch ranks. A mumble. Su Xing opened his eyes, and saw the Shi Qian that had been tightly embraced to his chest squirming in protest, and his hands happened to have one on her shoulder, and the other on her butt. The thief star Shi Yuan's face appeared to be red like a tomato. Su Xing deadpan parted lips with Shi Yuan, glancing around the vicinity. His divine intent already could no longer sense the Taoist Luo River. Has he already left? Su Xing's completely oblivious to what happened expression made Shi Yuan open her eyes wide. This was too shameless. That was her, the thief star's first kiss. She wanted to curse a few words of hate at him, and she was on the verge of saying so when she swallowed her words. Speaking about this out loud would only add to her embarrassment, so she might as well put on a nonchalant appearance. He searched for some time, and left after not finding us. Shi Yuan replied. She prepared to struggle free from Su Xing's body, but Su Xing immediately blocked her. Several dozen escape lights flew over one after another. One look showed that they were Blooming Water Sword sect disciples. For the time being, don't go out. We'll set out again tomorrow. Perhaps that old Taoist is waiting for us to show ourselves. Su Xing whispered. Shi Yuan hesitated for a moment. Her hand gently pushed against Su Xing's chest, and raising her eyebrows. Then, don't even think of taking advantage of this young lady. Su Xing solemnly promised, his mind wholly concerned with the surrounding vegetation. The two people's qi hiding arts were both the finest. Never mind a galaxy cultivator. A supercluster cultivator would not find it that easy to find them. And this brambly forest's range was 100 li. Even if they came with a carpet-style search, it was not that easy. After that, the Blooming Water Sword sect's dark blue escape lights were like shooting stars. Apparently, the Blooming Water Sword sect was pouring out an all-out effort to find them. Su Xing still leisurely considered countermeasures for afterwards. Shi Yuan definitely was not this relaxed. Actually, this was the very first time she was staying alone with a man in a narrow space. Especially frightening was that she suddenly, with no explanation, kissed her counterpart. Although this kiss was only a gesture of gratitude because Su Xing staked his life to accompany her on an adventure. With regards to the thief star, what star duels, what Maiden Mountain, none of it was like having someone sincerely go wild and have fun together with her. Shi Yuan furtively looked Su Xing up and down and discovered he actually was a very ideal man. The thief star vaguely somewhat understood how the knowledge star Wu Yong would review the majestic star in that way. Just as she was thinking these thoughts, for the latter part of the night, the thief star fell asleep upon Su Xing's chest. Su Xing smiled as he glanced at her. Gently holding her in his embrace, he entered the state of oneness of heaven and man. This night was sleepless. Blooming Water Sword sect, Heavenly Water Hall. All the protectors and hall masters, each looked as if they were facing a great foe, cold sweat soaking their backs. In particular, the guardian hall of the Overboard Summit was even more pale. Don't worry, Hall Master Wei too. The headmaster will definitely catch that thief. Exactly. Unexpectedly stealing from directly above the Blooming Water Sword sect's head. They're acting recklessly, ha ha. An exceedingly chilly cold grunt sounded out. That laughing cultivator immediately felt his four limbs grow ice cold. Oppressed where he stood by a powerful strength. Headmaster Taoist Luo River walked into the Heavenly Water Hall, his expression extremely unsightly and vile. The numerous cultivators present changed their expressions. Unexpectedly, the head could not catch them. Headmaster! All the disciples clasped together their hands in greeting, shouting loudly. Surprisingly, someone snuck onto this school's blooming water hall. And not a single person knew? Just what are you all cultivating? Taoist Luo River yelled. How can this Taoist face the secluded ancestral master and explain this to him? Absolutely disgraceful. Overboard Peak Guardian Hall. Go to the disciplinary hall to receive punishment. As you wish. The Guardian Hall disciples promptly said. Just what causes that thief? That the headmaster was unable to capture them. A female cultivator said. Although her cultivation could be said to be at galaxy middle stage, the secluded ancestral master was her instructor, and she completely did not fear the so-called head's expression. Ling Xian. 3. You're somewhat unaware, and it is unknown what magic that thief used to disappear from before this Taoist. Taoist Luo River sighed. Do we report this to the ancestral master? Unnecessary. Taoist Luo River resolutely declined. It was only a petty thief. This Taoist will definitely capture him. But what was stolen was the blooming water divine thunder true technique. Ling Xian frowned. This was the blooming water sword sect's guarded secret. They could not leave this unannounced. I have my own position. I need not say again. The old ancestor is currently at Bian City. If when he returns this Taoist has not captured that bandit, then certainly we will inform the ancestral master. Ling Xian said nothing more. Headmaster, Chen Zhonglin and his star general ask for an audience. A disciple said. Let him enter. Chen Zhonglin walked into the great hall. Passing through that very night self-cultivation with the sect's best healing secret pill. The two people completely did not have those sorry appearances that the numerous disciples saw last night. Zhonglin, you two are actually fine? Ling Xian asked, concerned. The blooming water sword sect indeed placed all its strength onto Chen Zhonglin and his star general. During the star duels phase, saying that they were the blooming water sword sect's most guarded treasure was not an exaggeration. Many thanks to Senior Ling Xian for your concern. Thanks to the instructor and many disciples' treatment, your junior is now already healed. Every detail of the events leading to last night's incident. Taoist Luo River asked. The rest of the people in the main hall did not dare gasp a breath. Chen Zhonglin briefly told the whole story once, but when he spoke about Lin Chong, the cultivators in the entire main hall actually let out a breath of cold air. Lin Chong, you didn't see her, did you? How could it be Lin Chong? Ling Xian shouted, astonished. Yaoer absolutely was not mistaken. That definitely was the Arctic Star Serpent Spear. Chen Zhonglin was unsightly. How could he not be willing to see with his own eyes? The panther head Lin Chong astonishingly had signed a star dual covenant. Do not mention how envious his heart was. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Unexpectedly, it's the majestic star. Maiden Mountain's 5 tiger generals. The situation had turned grave. Even if it is Lin Chong, the one that signed the contract must die. We must capture him. Taoist Luo River sounded cold. Zhonglin, do you still remember the thief's appearance? It was too dark. Zhonglin could not see clearly. Chen Zhonglin shook his head. In short, keep this secret first. We must not beat the grass to scare the snake. 5. As for the blooming water divine thunder true technique, as long as the other side uses the blooming water divine thunder, we can catch him. Ling Xian declared. The others nodded. It could only be this way. Zhonglin, you two rest properly. The others, immediately go look for that nebula stage star master. Taoist Luo River ordered. He turned and left the hall. An escape light that ascended and flew towards the blooming water hall. Inside the blooming water already were more than 20 disciples standing guard. Taoist Luo River entered the main hall, and securely closing the door, his hand grasping a token, he walked to an absolutely empty court. He abruptly gave a shady, lopsided, cold smile. If it is Lin Chong, then that's even better. Cultivating that type of divine thunder true technique requires you die without an intact corpse. Taoist Luo River laughed loudly, an actually carefree smile. He swept his eyes over the chamber, and moving his divine intent, a secret compartment popped out. Taoist Luo River's smiling expression froze with a start. He saw the secret compartment was unexpectedly completely empty, without a single thing inside. Immediately, it was as if Daoist Luo River was struck by lightning. Not good, he stole the Five Spirits Heavenly Book. The blooming water sword sect already caused a great disturbance in the rippling wave kingdom. In the heavens, on the earth and everywhere there could be seen flying swords and escape lights, making the star cultivators of rippling wave kingdom feel uneasy. At this moment, inside Insuan's health cottage, the blooming water sword sect did not know the person they sought was at this moment openly dwelling inside the cottage's bedroom. Although it was not absolute that the most dangerous place was the safest place, at this time, it was indeed very effective. When Su Xing and Shi Qian swaggered back to the cottage, practically no one found out. Young master, this time truly was too dangerous. Wu Xinjie had lingering fears. Seek riches and honor inside danger. Su Xing laughed. Taking chances could be said to have dissolved into his blood. Shi Yuan, did you get the item? Wu Xinjie asked. This time, even master faced such a great risk. Had the thief star returned empty-handed again, then she truly was unworthy of the title of best thief under heaven. Fortunately, the flea on a drum did not disappoint. 2 items flew onto the table. One was a blue bright jade strip, and the other was an official report booklet. How are there 2? Lin Yingmei frowned. I dunno. When this young lady stole that true technique, I sensed there was a secret compartment hidden underneath. Opening it while I was there took up a lot of time. I saw this book rolled up in there, and it was called Blooming Water something. This was second nature to the thief star. The moment she encountered a hidden mechanism, or secret compartment, she could not help pitting herself against it. However, Shi Yuan was completely unaware this unintentional action actually averted a calamity. For Su Xing, Wu Xinjie curiously looked at that rolled book. Moving her divine intent, a row of runes appeared. The words were like bright jewels, dark blue fading in and out, almost like flowing water. The knowledge star cried out in alarm. Heavens, this is the Five Spirits Heavenly Scroll. 6 Five Spirits Heavenly Scroll? What's that? Shi Yuan was confused, the name seemingly somewhat familiar. It seems to be the same as the Blooming Water Divine Thunder True technique. Su Xing held that jade strip, his divine intent sweeping across it, and then sweeping over that Five Spirits Heavenly Scroll. The first half of the cultivation technique was more or less linked, but there were some portions that were very odd. If previously Su Xing only felt something was strange, yet could not comprehend it, nowadays, he entered the absolute sincerity soul techniques see mountains, not as mountains second realm, and immediately he would understand the odd portions. The jade strips cultivation technique had been amended several times, and would faintly establish a Mara 7 within the mind. Yet that heavenly scroll was not the same. There were not any sort of side effects, and on the contrary, the latter stages had even more cultivation techniques. What a good blooming water sword sect, truly ruthless. Su Xing smiled coldly. Master, what's wrong? Lin Yingmei and the other girls asked. Su Xing tossed the jade strip. Humph, this jade strip has been edited numerous times. If anyone else were to practice it, perhaps if he just cultivated to the realm, he would have no way of controlling the divine thunder in his body and explode. They looked and immediately sensed the difference. Thinking it over again, they then understood what Su Xing meant when he said ruthless. Using a modified Blooming Water Divine Thunder True technique placed on top, the true technique would actually be hidden in the secret compartment. With things this way, even if someone were to come steal it, they certainly would not think the genuine technique would be hidden underneath. Pity that they ran into a robber the likes of Shi Qian who stole both books. Of course, even more unexpected was that Su Xing could see through this at a glance. However, this Blooming Water Technique scroll is really terrific. The power incantation inside is simply unimaginable. According to the practice on this, it's no wonder that this Blooming Water Divine Thunder is so powerful. The one who created this cultivation technique is truly extraordinary. We stole his successor's closely guarded secret to practice. Isn't that a bit too brilliant? Su Xing chuckled. The knowledge star smiled. Young master is overthinking. As Xinjie sees it, the true thief should be the Blooming Water Sword sect. The group did not understand. Wu Xinjie smiled. This scroll is definitely the legendary Liangshan's immemorial secret treasure. 5 Spirits Law Heavenly Book. Immemorial Secret Treasure 5 Spirits Law Heavenly Book? The ancient and secret treasure phrases that Wu Xinjie spoke of made the people present all draw in a cold breath. 1,000 years have yet to pass since the 9th Liangshan continent star duels. The time before these 1,000 years was known to everyone as the Ancient Wild One, and the even more ancient time was known as the immemorial Great Desolation. That perhaps was a world of hundreds of millions of years of primal chaos. An ancient secret treasure absolutely would make the entire Liangshan surge into chaos. Didn't we hear that this was the Blooming Water Sword sect's founder's original secret technique? Could it be said that he was an immemorial cultivator? And Suwen leisurely entered the room and heard Wu Xinjie's terrifying tale. The knowledge star had extreme talent, ability and insight vast as the ocean, and no one would doubt what she said. And that's why I said the Blooming Water Sword sect is the swindler. The knowledge star giggled. The 5 Spirits Heavenly Book altogether was divided into the 5 elements and 5 scrolls, recording Liangshan's 5 elements great secret technique. Regarding the 5 elements astonishing thunder's cultivation, perhaps no other text of secret arts could be even more comprehensive than the 5 Spirits Heavenly Book. For anyone that received one of these scrolls, even if it was not a 5 elements astonishing thunder that could be refined into a great power, this 5 Spirits Heavenly Book was the Blooming Water Scroll. The cultivator that began the Blooming Water Sword sect posed himself as the creator. Besides founding the school, he even made the cosmetic change Blooming Water Divine Thunder True technique. What is he if not a cheat? Wu Xinjie coldly smiled. This method of duping the entire Liangshan continent for the past several hundreds of years was truly awesome. However, this did concern the 5 Spirits Heavenly Book that simply was never before seen by anyone. And we don't know how he obtained this 5 Spirits Heavenly Book. Everyone contemplated this. Shi Yuan clapped her hands to interrupt their pondering, smiling. Since it's an immemorial secret treasure, then Su Xing, you really picked up something for cheap. This young lady has now satisfactorily completed the mission. I, on the other hand, will go study very meticulously this MO attack mechanism records, so I won't be keeping you company. Su Xing's opened his mouth, apparently also not having any reason to detain the thief star. Nodding, he said, "Then you be a bit more careful, too. Many thanks for the young master's concern." Shi Yuan winked. Su Xing, you too. They definitely will not let you go for this immemorial secret treasure. Shi Yuan, don't you want to be together with us? Wu Xinjie glanced at Su Xing, openly saying, "Since you helped us steal this secret treasure, the Blooming Water Sword sect won't let you go either. Let them bring it on. This young lady isn't afraid at all." The thief star scoffed. Opening the door, she was just about to leave when she suddenly remembered something. Smiling as she turned around, this young lady heard that sex people say relic blade sand was recently discovered at Bian City, but a supercluster cultivator has reportedly also appeared. Su Xing, if you were just a bit more bold, then you actually could go take a look. After she said these words, her figure jumped and left without looking back just like that. Shi Qian truly goes her own way. 3 Su Xing held the 5 Spirits Heavenly Book Blooming Water Scroll. Crooked characters the size of tadpoles on the surface of the paper floated up. These characters were very peculiar, appearing to be just like a river, faintly carrying a chill that intimidated people. Practicing the secret technique recorded, Su Xing practiced according to what was written once. And sure enough, it was extraordinary. The originally seemingly dying blooming water divine thunder nurtured inside his body flowed swiftly like rivers. A boundless majesty. It almost wanted to break out of his body. Fortunately, Su Xing had an absolutely valiant ocean of consciousness, matching the absolute sincerity soul technique to this intensifying blooming water divine thunder to suppress it. Then, he started to refine it bit by bit. The blooming water divine thunder gradually turned dark from its initial light color. When Su Xing started to refine the blooming water divine thunder's power, Wu Xinjie and Lin Yingmei kept close by at his side. Shi Qian kissed master. Lin Yingmei abruptly uttered this sentence aloud. Wu Xinjie nearly choked. She looked at the majestic star, amazed. The thief star and master kissed? Lin Yingmei felt that she needed to inform this matter to her. A star maiden kissing the master of other star generals was too strange. The knowledge star clearly understood that the thief star was probably moved by Su Xing thinking about it. It seemed to be the case. Daring to go with her to the blooming water sword sect to face danger. This absolutely was not an ordinary sort of trust. When the thief star originally raised this request, it was hard to avoid not probing Su Xing's intentions. She could not help recalling that she originally took a lot of trouble, as well as twists and turns, even unscrupulously plotting against Lin Yingmei to sign a contract with Su Xing. Now, it could be assumed that the knowledge star felt this was rather nebulous. The master she encountered was 1 in 10,000, a giant among men, able to contract with 2 star generals. Did she form a contract? Wu Xinjie did not know why she was unexpectedly somewhat looking forward to this. Although she knew her own question was naive, contracting with Maiden Mountain star generals had 3 types of conditions. One type of condition was that during the contracting ceremony, the star general had no way to refuse. This was Liangshan Continent's very mainstream point of view. Defeat the star general, and make her swear allegiance. The second type was to swear a promise ceremony. This type of contract was established on the foundation that both sides were willing, and the star generals and star masters that could form this type of contract, both would increase their strength drastically. Every major sect and sword school would select this method, exploiting countless terms to attract a star general to contract. The third type of condition could be said to be even higher level, even more illusory, the kiss contract. The star general's contract's highest ceremony, the kiss. As a condition, when a star cultivator successfully kissed a star maiden, a mutual ceremony would be smoothly born. However, every generation of star masters that could do the kiss contract were perhaps all rare as phoenix feathers. The reason was very simple. Star maidens saw kisses the same as their own lives. How could they easily offer such a thing? Even if there were some star masters and star generals whose strength reached the peak, they each could not kiss each other. The star master did not dare use force. If both sides of the contract filled in the cracks, that was absolutely deadly. Besides viewing a kiss as chastity, there was another reason that restricted the number of kiss contracts. And this was the star master itself. Maybe some people could exploit every sort of means to seize the chance to kiss a star maiden, but inevitably, they carried every sort of ambition and desire. Any sort of negative distracting thoughts would inevitably make forming a contract impossible. Only those types that did not think of it as a contract, but wholeheartedly cared for the star general herself, could succeed in a kiss contract. 5 Liangshan Continent's star masters that kissed star maidens certainly all would have the thought of signing a contract, and this also led to the rarity of kiss contracts. However, how could Wu Xinjie know that originally, Su Xing and Lin Chang's contract was accidentally this third type, the kiss contract? Lin Yingmei perhaps also recalled this matter. Her face slightly red, she oddly stared at Wu Xinjie briefly. At that time, Shi Qian was merely considering master's safety. There weren't thoughts of signing a contract, so a contract was not possible. Wu Xinjie nodded, somewhat regretful. Star masters that possessed 2 star generals were already genius. 3 star generals was only her delusion, nothing more. 6. Wu Yong, why do you want to let master contract Shi Qian this much? Lin Yingmei asked. Yingmei, are you jealous? Wu Xinjie chuckled. Lin Yingmei got angry. Wu Yong, what nonsense is this? Wu Xinjie laughed, not provoking Lin Yingmei any further. Being able to make Lin Chong willing to sign a contract, some odd element must be involved. The knowledge star restrained her frivolous manner, giving a drawn-out sigh. Actually, we're all sisters, yet why must we fight so fiercely? 7. The meaning of our descent is only for this reason? Don't tell me that Maiden Mountain's 108 stars shouldn't be one? Xinjie is not hoping to go change a notion that took shape 1,000 years ago. But having more sisters is never a bad thing. Lin Yingmei went blank silent. Maiden Mountain sisters? Inside the dog-eat-dog star duels. Were there still people that remembered this? This question. She had no way of replying. After staying at the health cottage for several consecutive days, the Blooming Water Sword sect gradually withdrew its great fanfare. Liangshan continent was large. Finding a person was truly not that simple to do. Su Xing also finished learning the technique of the 5 spirits heavenly book Blooming Water scroll over this time period, successfully refining the Blooming Water divine thunder once. Legends said that after 21 refinements were completed, star cultivators soon afterwards could refine the Blooming Water divine thunder into any sort of form, as if controlling another arm. On this day, Su Xing set out to bid farewell to Ensuan. These past days, they were under the care of the efficacious star, not only doing every sort of convenience in Rippling Wave Kingdom, but Su Xing also feasted his eyes on the materials of pills and herbs, even becoming proficient in that tiny bit of knowledge of pill concoction. Ensuan was earnestly adorable. Looking after him in every possible way made Su Xing very moved. He could not help but think of her like the little sister in a family. He was extremely reluctant to part. However, since ancient times, heroes feared a soft countryside lacking a heroic air the most. Su Xing also knew that he could not delay. Next, he needed to go to the Great Liang dynasty, not only to see the Divine Star platform, to hear about the matter of becoming an outlaw. The relic blade sand of Bian City was also a required aspiration. Young master, careful on the road. Return any time you wish. Ensuan faintly smiled, gifting some pills specially refined for today. How about we become sworn siblings as of this day? Su Xing momentarily had an impulse. Ensuan gasped in astonishment, red clouds flying across her cheeks. Lin Yingmei and Wu Xinjie looked at Su Xing dumbstruck. Their own master truly could not be judged with common sense, unexpectedly wanting to be sworn siblings with the efficacious star. It seemed the master really did not treat the star duels as a thing. Young Master Su Xing, do not make a joke out of Suan. And Suan repeatedly shook her head, softly saying, Suan believes she cannot match the 2 sisters at the young master's side. What do you 2 feel about Suan and I becoming sworn brother and sister? Su Xing asked. Lin Yingmei uttered not a word, definitely not in opposition. Wu Xinjie rolled her eyes, showing a cheerful smile. Suan, young master is this considerate of you. Are you turning your back on young master? Elder sister obviously knows Suan is not thinking like this. The efficacious star divine physician was somewhat embarrassed. Ha! Ha! Then little sister Suan is master's little sister from now on. Whoever dares to bully little sister Suan is basically bullying my master. How could the efficacious star not know what Wu Xinjie was implying? This was even more like some sort of disguised contract, a covert protection. It looks like I still cannot match up with you, Suan. Su Xing pretended to be disappointed. There is no need for the young master to say as such. As long as the young master does not avoid this burden, that is Suan. Suan promises the young master that it is so. And Suan bit her lip. Even Lin Yingmei could not help but smile upon seeing her bashful blushing. Wu Xinjie laughed loudly without restraint, holding 2 cups of oath-swearing sake. The ancients have the oath of the peach garden. Today has master and Suan forge a conjugal union. Conjugal union, yeah right. Su Xing glared at her, but he still merrily drank the sake, and sprinkling it. From this day forth, and Suan, you are my Su Xing's little sister. Your brother swears under oath. If in the future, brother treats you unfairly, then it shall be as if the Celadon cup has ended. Su Xing grasped the cup in his hand, and the Celadon cup immediately became specks. And Suan's eyes were slightly red. Opening her mouth, she wanted to say some things, but she could not speak. Little sister Suan, won't you say brother? Wu Xinjie teased. And Suan returned to her expression. Looking towards Su Xing, she softly called big brother. Su Xing burst with joy, saying embarrassed, "Don't be this awkward. Just being like usual will be fine." "Little sister Suan, then do you want to go with us to Bian City?" Lin Ying may opened her mouth. If big brother has business, then little sis naturally will arrive. It's only that to this Bian City that little sis cannot go. It can't be said for sure that Shi Yuan will return to ask for information about brother Su Xing. And Suan softly said, "That's also fine." Su Xing nodded. This trip to Bian City would be ominous and dangerous. Before they lacked bedding in Liangshan again, and Suan staying at the health cottage was clearly even safer somewhat. Suan pondered, gently pulling her fine black hair. From inside a decorative jade hairpin, she took out a bead. This bead seemed ordinary, but along with the fragrant scent she spat out, that bead immediately seemed to have had a layer of dust brushed away. It became transparent and pure, and its inside faintly had a splendid light flash. This detoxification bead, 3 little sis gifts to brother to use for self-protection. Detoxification bead? The nearby 2 girls showed a surprised expression. It seems this detoxification bead's value was considerable. Su Xing promptly shook his head, waving his hand in refusal. "I'll leave this to you for your self-protection. I cannot accept it." And Suan smiled. Brother's words are mistaken. Little sister does not fear 100 poisons. And Suan only held on to this detoxification bead to use as an accessory. Brother on the outside, Liangshan is ruthless. Having a detoxification bead for protection, little sister can feel relieved. If brother does not accept it, then this turning your back on little sister. What Su Xing had said early had been turned around by Suan to reverse their positions. "Then I'll gift you a little something as well." Su Xing compromised. Searching through his astral bag for a while, he did not find something that suited Suan. The astral treasure profound star barrier was suitable. However, she would not accept it. At this time, Su Xing suddenly recalled the good item he obtained at the Kunwu ancient monument, taking out a jadeite astral treasure. "Ah, an astral treasure?" Wu Xinjie was startled, and Suan was also shocked. This sort of super rare item was more than enough to spare in, even if it was exchanged for a detoxification bead. "Look inside," Su Xing indicated to her. Inside this jadeite gem, only a slim monster could be seen frozen inside. "This is the ancient strange beast spirit swallowing dragon?" And Suan very quickly recognized it. "Brother, how could you have something like this?" Lin Ying briefly told the events at the Kunwu ancient monument. This was also the first time Wu Xinjie was made aware that the Kunwu ancient monument was actually solved by Su Xing, momentarily shocked. "I'm unable to train this spirit-swallowing dragon. Little sis Suan, you are the divine physician. You should have some understanding regarding this. Keeping this on me is a waste. I'll leave this for your protection." Su Xing smiled completely from the heart, and Suan covered her mouth, her body slightly trembling, a mist lingering in her eyes. What's the matter?" Su Xing was frozen, not understanding why Suan suddenly lost her composure. How could he have known this shock brought to the efficacious star by the thing he raised? Previously, Suan only felt Su Xing, and she signing a contract was perhaps because she was the divine physician. But when he took out the astral gemstone's essence-swallowing dragon, everything was different. The spirit-swallowing dragon was an ancient strange beast, a beast that specifically fed on essence. If it could be trained, then it absolutely was a terrifying trump card. This sort of thing was simply more powerful than an ancient astral treasure to the unarmed and defenseless efficacious star. 5. Su Xing should be able to understand why putting this strange beast in her hand would elicit a shock. However, without any hesitation, it was clear that Su Xing truly viewed her as a relative. 1. Does this mean contracting her is out of the question? How could this sort of trust not make the efficacious star moved? Wu Xinjie also advised her to accept it. The knowledge star actually was thinking purely of using this as a pretext to make the efficacious star loyal only to master and no other. Additionally, like Su Xing said, although an ancient strange beast was good, truly rearing it still required a person the likes of the efficacious star divine physician for that to work. Otherwise it was still a waste. Little sister definitely will not disappoint brother. And Suan solemnly promised, "You have to carefully avoid people's eyes and ears," Su Xing ordered. Su Xing then gave those thunder water flowers and thunder water flower snake crown, all to the efficacious star to refine. And afterwards was another order. Finally, the girl even kissed Su Xing's cheek. "Brother, you're worrisome." Under the efficacious star's caring gaze, Su Xing, Lining Mei and Wu Xinjie boarded the wind-swayed raft and departed. Destination: the lady adorned in red plays music at Treasure Pavilion Pagoda. The scholar recites and walks near the beautiful bridge of flowing water. Bian City was the great Liang dynasty's capital. Her magnificent classical beauty made Su Xing, who was used to seeing modernized cities, and then seeing city-states with such rich history, unbearably shook up for a bit. Richly decorated dwellings and pavilion chambers were everywhere. When he was looking down from the wind-swayed raft in the sky, red walls and green willows, flying smoke thin as cotton, and an imperial palace of gold, jade and colored glass was just like a gigantic, entrenched dragon. Imposing and majestic, it was worthy of the name of Liangshan continent's #1 dynasty. As for the current emperor, Liang Huizong, too, he was also a legendary character. His mother empress was a royal consort, and the time when Liang Huizong was born was the moment the internal palace underwent a power struggle. When he was born, he was met with an assassination, and his mother died for him. Liang Huizong was rescued from the imperial palace by a palace maid, and afterwards, he coincidentally had the opportunity to enter the true immortal hall, becoming an outstanding star cultivator. Afterwards, when he was 18, he learned of his own identity that year. Despite his instructor's warnings, he alone killed his way into the imperial palace to seize power. That battle could be said to have ended now since the dawn of time. At the time, the rest of the crown princes at the imperial palace had many schools supporting them. Behind them were star cultivators working behind the scenes, yet Liang Huizong relied on the 72 outer void deities' sword style. 3. To bloodily purge Bian City. Reportedly at the time, the Dragon River protecting the city was dark red like blood. Only after 70 days was the river clear, and from then on, all under heaven acknowledged his rule. Liangshan continent had a tacit understanding that schools would absolutely not be involved in the secular world. However, Liang Huizong's status was special. At his back was the true immoral hall, and the rest of the schools that saw this could only turn a blind eye. Where was the school known as True Immortal Hall? Star cultivators had a limerick that went like this: 1 clear, 2 halls, 3 palaces for sword sections, 5 lakes, 6 oceans, 7 mountains from 8 directions, 9 firmaments azure dragons. 5. The meaning was that these 10 great schools could intimidate the azure dragon of the 9 firmaments, and various barbarians paid tribute. Furthermore, the True Immortal Hall was one of the 2 halls. Originally, every large school did not permit admittance of the imperial family into its halls, but Liang Huizong was an exception. He certainly was a cultivation and military genius. In the end, those schools heaved a great sigh whenever they discussed this affair fate. Because of this, the True Immortal Hall's power seemed to pressure the clear void path of 1 clear. Although Liang Huizong's violent and bloody rise to power made countless people resentful and discontent, afterwards was the enlightenment of politics. Officials treated each other well, and brave individuals came forth in great numbers to open up the frontier in a 10-year expedition for 10 years of peace and prosperity. After 20 years, the great Liang dynasty's military accomplishments were at their golden age as writing styles bloomed, and the literati came out in droves with beautiful articles unexpectedly surpassing that from the past. Soon after, Liang Huizong encouraged even more for all restrictions of influential families joining sections. Formerly, Liang Taizong passed down an execution of all relatives order. During his reign, for the sake of worrying about the rest of the clan's power, expand to their former glory before the star cultivators, making countless good, talented and accomplished youths harbor grudges endlessly. It was precisely this condition that completely roped in the rest of the hierarchy. The other sects recruited disciples from the imperial family, the nobility and the landowning class continuously. Just like how a Bian city had the shadows of at least 100 schools. For this reason, Liang Huizong specially constructed an inner castle for star cultivators within the city. Su Xing piloted the wind-swayed raft to descend outside the city, so as not to attract attention. Lin Yingmei and Wu Xinjie also entered the star nest. Bian City, after all, was the great Liang dynasty's national capital. Its schools were innumerable. It simply was a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. Liang Huizong unexpectedly is this powerful. He certainly would not renounce a star general. Su Xing recalled Gong Kaiwei. Her father was Prince Feng Wu. 6 was he not? Wu Xinjie had previously visited Bian City. The knowledge star's understanding of many events was far greater than anyone's. Correct and far beyond what young master can expect. How so? The great Liang dynasty imperial family altogether has at least 3 star masters. 3 Su Xing was startled. Correct, at least 3. Wu Xinjie said. Liang Huizong has 9 sons and 6 daughters. The oldest is 17 this year. The youngest should only be a month. There are 5 already qualified to become his successor. In Liang Huizong's method of selecting the heir of the title of emperor, young master. What is your guess? Star duel. Su Xing was blank. Right, it's a star duel. Isn't that internal strife? Lin Yingmei said. A great majority of schools generally only would foster 1 star master. The cause for this was not awfully complicated. Star duels could only have 1 victor at the very end. If the 5 successors all inherited star masters, the best outcome was that 4 would necessarily die. The worst would be a complete wipeout. Su Xing's heart thought that this Ling Huizong was indeed iron-blooded and pitiless. Was this not just callously watching his own sons and daughters be sent to die? However, thinking it over once more, going by this great Liang dynasty's robust foundation, the Liang clan imperial family actually could possibly become the final victor. Young master, the Liang clan imperial family has 2 people you must look out for. Wu Xinjie's tone was cautious. What sort of people? The current great Liang dynasty's Princess Ling Yan, 7, and the second crown prince Zhao Heng, 8. As far as I know, theirs are both extraordinary star generals. Su Xing nodded his head. Even if she was lacking, the star maiden able to become the imperial families would not be too lacking anywhere after that. Entering Bian City, Su Xing found a happiness and fortune in 9, and requested for a large guest room. Then, without stopping to rest, he rushed to the market square. He already did not have too much time given to understand Bian City. At the time Su Xing went to the square, in a corner of the imperial city in the northern part of Bian City, within an imposing and grand mansion, a young person wearing a flimsy green shirt stood inside a pavilion, both hands behind his back, a very rare look of satisfaction on his face, as he appreciated the sights outside pavilion. A beautiful and splendid woman stood to the side not far away. A long skirt, 10 with cotton thread binding tight the satin fabric, exhibited an exquisite and alluring appearance. Her tube top and blue butterfly outer garment sheltered her white skin. The surrounding blue stripes gave a dim blue light when examined carefully, and her sparkling and pure earrings hung, swaying in the wind. Fine black hair dispersed across her shoulders used a blood-red bellflower hairpin to pull up. Stuck in and tilting, flowing like clouds, it seemed like crow's hair. Thinly applied makeup, eyebrows like bent willows, and a light point of vermilion in the middle of her forehead. She seemed beautiful and moving. Her delicate hands kept a red sheet inside her vermilion lips, like blood. Her languid thoughts were hardly covered up. Her bearing seemed to be lazy. In a moment, the girl suddenly turned towards the garden entrance, that pair of beautiful eyes vigilant and demonically charming. And at this not remote flower garden entrance came the sound of footsteps. Then a black hat and embroidered gown wearing old man appeared there. When he lifted his head, he just happened to meet the girl's snake-like and demonic, deviant eyes. And he could not help but tremble, and sound a cold war alarm in his heart. The girl put on a playful smile. That youth simultaneously turned his gaze, faintly saying, "Elder Yun, 11, how is Bian City right now?" "Reporting to your majesty." Star cultivators that have heard of the Kun with sand have come in quite the numbers. Elder Yun forced a laugh and then walked over. His cultivation, in any case, had reached the galaxy stage, much higher than the youth at Nebula middle stage before him. But even if things were like this, when the old man faced towards this man, he still showed a respectful and deferential veneration, and to no other. The youth before him was the great Liang dynasty's second crown prince, Zhao Heng. Has a star master taken the bait? Zhao Heng smiled. Those star masters are very careful, and have not been detected. Actually, a supercluster stage cultivator has been drawn here. Elder Yun whispered. A supercluster cultivator? Could my elder sister not have returned either? Zhao Heng coldly smiled. I heard Princess Ling Yin has appeared at Yu Province. 12. Truly disappointing. Eye of the Palace 13. Have not fought a bout with sister in a long time. Eye of the Palace also wants to know if a 3-star destined weapon can cut down Maiden Mountain's 5 great generals. The girl coldly said. Zhao Heng and the elderly man glanced at the girl, each showing different expressions. There is something I must inform you of, Your Majesty. The elder suddenly recalled something. What's that? The immortal hero princess has already left the heavenly ice sacred temple, without permission. Su Xing went in an entire circle at the Bian City Market Square, and it deserved to be called the Great Liang Dynasty's national capital, due to the first under heaven Emperor Liang Huizong overseeing things, every large school, sword sect and the like, as well as the amount of scattered star cultivators that came to Bian City numbered in the 10,000s. This place's items were far more complete than the Heavenly River Market Square, and the prices were even more expensive. A single bottle of qi recovery pills cost more than 1,000 liang of gold. Su Xing settled for a bottle of very good return spirit liquid that had a price even higher, at several 10,000 liang of gold. However, if it were swapped over to a star cultivator's necessary artifacts, pills, secret techniques, and so on, bartering was actually not that demanding. Seeing things like this, Su Xing found out he was actually quite poor. The gold in his pockets was approximately 50,000 liang, and he had only just purchased more than 1 bottle of returned spirit liquid. As for the rest of the tantalizing artifacts, he simply need not look at them any longer. Su Xing walked all over through more than 100 shops, and did not see relic blade sand. On the other hand, thunderfire sand, pure copper fine steel, and such were innumerable. However, what Su Xing considered about first of all, was the relic blade sand. This sort of item had to be set aside for the time being. Finally, Su Xing could only place his hopes upon Bian City Market Square's Clear Void Treasure Hall. 2. Speaking of the Clear Void Treasure Hall, it was very interesting. The True Immortals Hall 3 increasingly expanded through Liang Huizong's power, and the benefits distributed made the Clear Void Path's inner circle somewhat resentful. Liang Huizong also was an enlightened sovereign king, and seeing this, he then established in Bian City an auction. The goal was to concentrate some first-rate materials together. Some low-rank cultivators that possibly possessed good items did not dare sell. After all, some top-notch treasured materials possibly would attract a deadly disaster. Treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This logic was a required learning for every star cultivator entering the astral. Besides seizing the opportunity to grow Bian City's star cultivators, the market square also let the Clear Void Taoists a portion of the profits. This sort of auction style that publicly offered sales actually received doubt when it first started, but along with several valued artifacts, pills and so on being sold, the auction afterwards then rose to fame. It was an even greater enticement, especially towards low-level star cultivators. Liangshan continent was so large, and it could not be said for sure what happy encounter could be picked up. Keeping some hot items at the present stage were useless, so it was better off to use them to be sold. Yet, low-level cultivation star cultivators would not dare take them out, and with things like this, the auction would then give them the best channel. By only receiving a small intermediary's fee, they could attract hundreds of powerful star cultivators to fall over each other in their eagerness to buy. Both sides each had something to gain, and for the sake of letting the auction making the other star cultivators relax, Liang Huizong then handed it over to Liangshan Continent's #1 school, the Clear Void Taoists. Furthermore, it was dubbed with a good name, Clear Void Treasure Hall. Su Xing's sole valuable was precisely the corpse of the ancient demon beast Blooming Water Dragon, and exchanging this for relic blade sand would not be a problem. If Su Xing wanted to sell the dragon, he only needed to do it at the Clear Void Treasure Hall. Su Xing thought it over. Although this dragon was an ancient demon beast, it was not at the point it would make the #1 school in the land smash their own signboard. Thinking of this, Su Xing ingested an change appearance pill. 5. This was a pill that Insuan specially refined, and this foster sister was quite attentive to know that in Bian City, Su Xing inevitably could not reveal his real face. This pill required many tens upon tens of thousands of liang of gold. Pill refiners actually had prospective futures, and Insuan had just only 3. Swallowing the change appearance pill, the pill's power spreading felt just like there were 10,000 ants climbing about on his face, and was extremely painful. His bones squirming movements were audible, his flesh also incessantly changing. Su Xing felt his face seemingly be melted like a scheduled demolition, finally subsiding only after a long while. Looking at the mirror, Su Xing's appearance transformed from a determined and dashing soldier's look to a full beard, the uneven and ugly face of a middle-aged man. 6. How unsightly. The ugly went with the ugly, and the change appearance pill only had 5 hours of effect. Su Xing then walked over to the Clear Void Treasure Hall, without stopping to rest. A black-clothed boy received Su Xing, seeing his purpose of coming was to auction an item. He then led him to see the shopkeeper. If star cultivators wanted to sell, they first of all had to let the shopkeeper give the goods an inspection to determine if there were sufficient qualifications, and then they would arrange a date. The shopkeeper was a slightly putting on weight fatty. His cultivation was at nebula late stage, and when he saw Su Xing, his eyes held some revulsion. Most probably this appearance actually was too unsightly. However, in any case he has operated for more than 10 years. And he saw many cultivators sell more than a few valuable objects. He said, "My friend, I wonder what you want to auction off." This. Su Xing's voice penetrated with an all-out effort. He opened his bag a crack. The shopkeeper wrinkled his brow, sweeping his divine intent towards the bag's opening. His slightly loathing expression immediately turned dumbstruck. This is. Please wait a bit, friend. This item is actually very far from my expectations. This one who is beneath you needs to report to the senior shopkeeper. Su Xing nodded. After a moment passed, an old man with a long beard white as snow lifted the curtain and walked in. The old man's eyes were full, his face completely rosy, wearing a robe that let off dust, showing a refined and artistic air. A sort of dignity like a tsunami makes Su Xing almost drop to his knees in submission. 7. Unexpectedly, it was a supercluster stage cultivator. How is this friend addressed? The old man's voice was gentle. His cultivation was at least galaxy stage, but he did not have the slightest amount of arrogance, making Su Xing have a very favorable impression. Indeed worthy of being called the Clear Void Taoists, Liangshan's #1 Great Immortals School. Your servant is Zhou Sihai. 8. Su Xing randomly put together a name. May I ask, honored senior? Zhou Sihai. 9. When Wu Xinjia heard this name, Su Xing cooked up. She could not help but want to laugh. This old Taoist is the Taoist Cool Breeze. I wonder if fellow Zhou could give this old Taoist a look at that item? Taoist Cool Breeze asked. After looking at it, the Taoist Cool Breeze did not show astonishment like that shopkeeper. Lightly smiling, and with a little hint of mystery and enigma, the ancient demon beast Blooming Water Dragon actually is very rarely seen. A pity the Blooming Water Thunder Dragon pill is no more. A pity, such a pity. Could it be it can't be auctioned? Su Xing asked. Of course it isn't. This is indeed the most valuable article the Clear Void Treasure Hall has seen in the past few years. May I ask, this Blooming Water Dragon, where did fellow Zhou obtain it? The Taoist Cool Breeze slightly smiled. Su Xing had already thought of an excuse that he blurted out. I was with a fellow when we happened to see this dragon on its dying breath, which we then rationally cut down. He took away the Blooming Water Dragon pill, and the dragon's soul. This dragon's corpse was then given to your servant. Su Xing put on a lamenting expression. The two-star cultivators looked at him very sympathetically. This ancient demon beast's greatest valuables were just that blooming water dragon pill and dragon soul, which were at least 100 times more valuable than this dragon corpse. The Taoist Cool Breeze did not doubt Su Xing's words. He already saw that this dragon indeed had arrived at old age, like it had been repressed for ages. Already at its dying breath, they had walked into a fortunate meeting. Since this issue is the ancient demon beast blooming water dragon, this elder Taoist has a suggestion. I wonder whether or not fellow Zhou would listen. The Taoist Cool Breeze smiled. Please speak. The Clear Void Treasure Hall shall hold a dragon gathering, a special performance to auction off this dragon. What say you? That shopkeeper was afraid the crude Su Xing did not comprehend the elder's intentions, explaining. The Taoist's intent is to use the next few days to promote your dragon. This way, you can then reap even greater profits. How could Su Xing not know? The better the dragon's sale, the Clear Void Treasure Hall's share of benefits was also greater. Of course, this Clear Void Taoist did not care about those gold bullion. What he wanted more was to give the Clear Void Treasure Hall a boost in interest. Who let the Clear Void Treasure Hall auction this sort of ancient demon beast dragon for the very first time? That will do, but I have a request. Speak it. For this dragon, I must exchange it for relic blade sand. The Taoist Cool Breeze went blank. The shopkeeper looked at Su Xing dumbstruck. Could it be that this ugly brute was still dreaming to use relic blade sand to obtain a Star Maiden's contract? Truly a toad wanting to eat swan meat. Thinking of this, that fatty shopkeeper brimmed with ridicule towards Su Xing. The Taoist Cool Breeze perhaps also thought as much, nevertheless maintaining his tranquil bearing as he agreed. Subsequently, they discussed the particulars and signed a contract. The dragon gathering's time was arranged 3 days from now. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.